Okay, Celtic fans, and welcome to another edition of the Celtics Talk Radio video chat here on StreamYard. Of course, we are live on the Facebook in the Celtics Talk Radio page, and of course, streaming also in the Weebly Green Celtics Fan Forum page. So you can see us on both those pages right now, and the link is also available on Twitter via the Celtics Talk Radio Twitter account. So we are here, you guys, to discuss the Celtics' victory over the Philadelphia 76ers from this past Wednesday, 88-87, and of course the loss just last night, which was a 137-130 loss to the Utah Jazz, and of course the win this past Sunday night, 109-97 over the Toronto Raptors. So the Celtics, since our last time being with you guys, which of course would have been the radio show this past Saturday, if I'm correct, the Celtics went 2-1 and now sit at a record of 12-11 as of this moment. And of course, now we get prepared to play later on tonight against the Portland Trailblazers. This is a game, obviously, that starts a stretch, you guys, that is going to be pretty testy for the Celtics, as obviously, we are now on that West Coast trip that many fans feel that pretty much could derail the way the Celtics were going. Again, it started with that loss to Utah last night. Now you play Portland tonight at 10 p.m., then the Lakers this coming Tuesday, 10 p.m. on TNT. Then the very next night against the Los Angeles Clippers, 10:30 p.m., and then it ends next Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, ESPN, against the Phoenix Suns. So the Celtics, as of right now, Igor and Andy, sit in ninth place in the Eastern Conference, 4.5 games behind the number one seeded Brooklyn Nets in this case, tied with the Philadelphia 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks for the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. So you guys, I'm going to give the floor to Igor for his opening thoughts in regards to what we saw this past week. Again, 2-1, 109-97 against the Raptors Sunday, 88-87 over the Philadelphia 76ers, and then a loss 137-130 against the Utah Jazz just last night.
Thank you, Daniel, and it's my pleasure to talk with you guys. Hello, Danny. Hello, Andy. And I'm really sorry that, of course, our fourth guy is not here, but he will join us next time, or he said like 7:30 if we are still in the air, but never mind. Anyway, we will miss him. What we saw the last night, the last week to say, ugly win against 76ers. I would, but still the win, and I would take it. We could lose. Some questionable decisions at the end of the game by the coach and I would say Schroeder and the team in general that I don't understand, but we gambled to split in the water everything that we did during the 48 minutes at the end of the game, but luckily we won. That game, like I told you guys personally, against Philadelphia was important because we were ahead. We were heading to the 5 games West Conference road trip. Utah, Portland, Clippers. Lakers, Clippers, and who is the fifth opponent? I forgot.
Phoenix Suns.
Phoenix Suns. Yes. Thank you, Daniel. This is important. Why this is important? This game, because we, as a team, we wanted to enter the West Coast trip with the confidence of the win. And of course, that the necessary win at our home court against arch rival like Philadelphia would give us some kind of confidence boost, I hoped, ahead of the Western Conference road trip, and the standings boost, because like Danny, you said, we are sharing position number 8 with that Philadelphia team, which is ahead of us. If I'm correct, Philadelphia is 8, 12, and 11 because of better conference record, but currently it doesn't mind. So Brooklyn is number 1, Eastern Conference 16 and 6, Chicago number 2, 15 and 8, Miami number 3, 14 and 9, Washington surprise number 4, 14 and 9. If somebody told me Washington would be number 4 after 23 games, I would laughed at him before the season started, but they play good basketball. Milwaukee number 5 with a lot of injuries, 14 and 9. Cleveland number 6, another surprise, 13 and 10. Jarrett Allen and Garland are playing fantastic. Charlotte number 7, 13 and 11. Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier and LaMelo Ball and the other guys from Charlotte. Philadelphia number 8, we defeated them. And the rumors are spreading that they want to trade Ben Simmons. I forgot the latest rumor. Yeah, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander attached to Philadelphia and Ben Simmons in those rumors. Boston sharing number 8 position, currently 9th. I think Danny will confirm or demand me, because of the better conference records. Philadelphia is holding number 8, Atlanta number 10, 12 and 11. Danny, we have the 3 teams circle for positions number 8, 9 and 10. I think mini standings are there. Am I correct or not, between Philadelphia, Boston, and Atlanta, or the best conference records? You will tell me, but currently, never mind. So what I wanted to say about Philadelphia game, I mean. Al Horford is still Joel Embiid's daddy. That is my biggest take. Jason Tatum is playing Jason Tatum basketball. And Philadelphia is a good team. Without shadow of a doubt, they are playing good without even Simmons and Embiid. And we can give them a boost and give them, how to say, credit for that to Doc Rivers. Now, where they will finish depends to be seen. About Utah Jazz game 137 and 130, I think that we just Utah Jazz broke our franchise record in number of threes scored against the Celtics. The previous record was 26 threes allowed by the Boston Celtics defense, and we allowed 29 threes according to my stat sheet that I'm looking. 29. Is that 29 threes? Let me just say. Let me just see. No, what is this? Yeah, it says 19. I mean, that is not current. I think that I must find the proper stat sheet, but I think that it is a stat sheet from not final at the end of the third of. Okay. So it is not final stat sheet. So they broke, the record of the three scored against Boston Celtics, and I mean, kudos to them. We will talk about that in a little later, if you guys are okay with that. Okay, so 27 threes made. Yes, 27 out of 51. That's 52%. 3-pointers, and the record is broken. So Officially, this is the most threes that Boston Celtics allowed to opponent in one game in 75, 76 years of the history. Um, this is of course, not good. I want to say something that I disagree, and I will argue about it. Um, I mean, I heard this is tough loss. I see the fans are happy and the fans are satisfied because they think that we gave good effort and that kind of stuff. I agree, and kudos to the Celtics. They led it in the fourth, and they were in the game. They scored 130 points to one good team and one good franchise that is well selected and you know they have good coach. For example, Utah Jazz 14-7 this season, expected wins against the point differential 67. They had point differential, listen to this, plus 203, second in the NBA, offensive rating 115.2, first in the NBA. So ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see and if you want to ask us what the best offense in the NBA is looking like, just watch again the Utah Jazz game and Utah Jazz games, and this is the best offense in the NBA. Defensive rating also 105.6, sixth in the NBA. So that's what I'm talking about. They have top 5 or top 6 both offense and defense, point differential second to Warriors, if I'm correct. So this is what the true contender is looking like. Net rating plus 9.8, second in the NBA. Elite team, elite statistics, and very good team. So we played very good. Solid game, solid performance without Jaylen Brown. And with limited role of Robert Williams, I would say. By the way, another stat from Ryan Bernardoni: this is 8th game in Celtics history where the opponents made in 20 plus threes. So we played good game and we still lost prior to another tough road games, and another one is tonight late, if I'm correct, then at 10 p.m. Eastern against Portland Trail Blazers in Portland without Jaylen Brown, Romeo Langford questionable, and who else? Al Horford is also out. So I will analyze game a little later. I will concentrate on those 3 pointers that we allowed, 27. What we did good in that game, I thought what we did well was second chance points, because if I'm correct, when I looked the last time, it was 25-4 in the second chance points. So in rebounds, we had 30 rebounds, they 44, but second chance points and fast break points, steals 9-3. That's what we did good, and fast break points and points from the second chance. That's what we did good. Okay. I cannot say, for example, Keith Smith said about those threes, quote, the Celtics played the good defense tonight, and 41 out of 51 threes that Utah attempted were contested. I disagree with that, and I watched the game closely, and I rewatch every single three that Utah attempted. And I will tell you why I think that more than 50% of the threes were actually not contested, but they are counted as contested. I will For example, I remember one of 7 threes that Mike Conley made, for example. It was half-court offense by Utah. Utah had their starting five like Conley, Bogdanovich, Mitchell, Royce O'Neal, Rudy Gobert. It was stagnant offense. The Celtics rotated well. Then Donovan Mitchell, broke our offense. He drove to the line. Our defense close to Mitchell. They triple teamed the Mitchell. Al Horford came as the help line of the defense from the side to double team Donovan Mitchell down there. Rudy Gobert was totally out of the play at the corner. So because because our defense broke and we double team or triple team Mitchell down there, they had the free man up there. Mitchell is making outlet pass. Then we close to the first pass. Then they make extra pass to Robert Conley to the left elbow for the three. Robert Conley is hitting the three. Now, Al Horford is late to the close to close out that offensive pass. He's lating like 0.5 seconds or 1 second, and the moment Conley make a shot, Al Horford is there, but he's at least half a second or 1 second late, and Robert Conley is making the three. So the stat sheet is listing that three as contested three, but actually because of the extra passing that Utah is doing and fantastic spacing in the offense, every single time they shoot the three, the shooter is having advantage even via step back three or via extra pass, half of a second or 1 second. And actually, it's not contested three. Contested three for me is when you shoot over the hand. Okay, but when the defender is coming late to close, the three, that is not contested three for me. And about, I'm not happy with our 3-point defense. And for example, one more stat before giving word to Andy. About the defense, NBA team opponent 3 points point percent. Believe it or not, the Brooklyn is having the best 3 points defense. They are allowing this year 30.9% threes. Minnesota number 2, 31%. Milwaukee number 3, etc. Utah is number 4, 32.5. You must scroll down if you want to find the Celtics in the 3-point defense. This year, the Celtics are number 14, 34.3% allowed for threes, 34.3% allowed threes. Utah constantly this game had over 50% for threes, finished the game with 52% for threes, 27 out of 51. The Celtics are, again, allowing 34.3% for threes. Last 3 games, this defense is even worse. Last 3 games against Utah, Philadelphia, and what was the game before Philadelphia? I cannot remember, never mind. 38.7. What was the game?
Victory over Toronto.
Victor over Toronto. So in Toronto games, Philadelphia games, and Utah games, we are allowing 38.7% for threes. This is worse 3-point defense than average. And of course, if you check the defense in Boston slightly better, 34.1%, away 34.7%. And if you want to compare the defense previous season we allowed 37.6%, this season 34.3%. So slightly better 3-point defense this season, but it is not blistering. And to conclude the story, I mean, 3-point shooting and fantastic spacing, fantastic offense by the Utah has won the game. This is why I'm not optimistic about this Celtics team. I mean, we scored 130 points. Kudos to the Celtics offense in this game against, very solidly, if I'm correct, six defense in the NBA. But we cannot be happy with the game. And I mean, I really hope that we can win at least two games at this road trip. I'm looking to the game tonight against Portland, and I'm looking to the game against the Lakers Wednesday night, because I think the Lakers are not a very good team right now, and I really hope that we will survive this road trip. Andy, what is your opinion about Utah and Philadelphia?
Well, I mean, I'll start with Toronto because I haven't really talked about that. But I mean, I think it's the same things that we've been talking about. I don't think there's anything really new here. I mean, we can talk about defensive errors and we can talk about the statistics with the defense, and all your statistics are correct. But the baseline fact is that the same issue is feeding those statistics, and that's that we don't communicate on defense. We don't seem to trust each other. And because there's no communication, guys are making the wrong reads or they're not compensating for each other properly. And that just leads to these breakdowns. Like, for example, like in the Jazz game, I guess I'll start with the Jazz game. But like, so against the Jazz, the beginning of the second quarter, there was a possession where the Jazz came up the floor. Gobert sets a screen for, I think it was Mitchell. And Josh Richardson got lost on the screen, which is understandable. Gobert's a good screener, so, it's kind of a given. Gobert rolls in and Richardson follows him. Smart was guarding, I'm not even sure who it was, who the shooter in the corner was. It might have been Royce O'Neal. I don't remember. It's probably O'Neal or Connolly. But Smart was guarding him. Smart actually makes the right decision and comes in to block Gobert because Gobert had like a step or two on Richardson. In that situation, Richardson should have rotated onto the corner shooter, but he didn't. So you ended up with Horford guarding Mitchell, and Horford, was well positioned. He denied Mitchell the driving lane. But then you had two people on Gobert. Richardson's like a step behind Gobert. We're talking like Rudy Gobert steps. So it's like two steps for a normal person. And Smart is in front of Gobert, well positioned to defend him. But because both Richardson and Smart are on Gobert, nobody communicated that. We left the Jazz's corner shooter standing wide open. I don't think that's necessarily great offense of the Jazz. I think that's just bad defense from us. I mean, a team could have, most teams will have somebody stand in the corner. It's just, a good defense doesn't leave those guys wide open and uncovered, and we do. And that's something that's a basic communication error. All Smart had to do is said, hey, cover him. And Richardson rotates to that corner shooter, and that three is at the very least contested. Richardson's a pretty solid perimeter defender, so likely that three doesn't go in. And there were a lot of plays like that. There were just a lot of plays where guys, come into the paint and leave corner shooters wide open. And it's so widespread of the team. I think, I said this last year about the Celtics team. I feel like it has to be coached, because there's no other explanation for me as to why we consistently collapse in and leave corner shooters open, unless they're coaching these guys to come into the paint and off of their marks in the corner. And that makes no sense to me, because, in the modern NBA, you can't leave. There's only a handful of people that you can leave wide open in the corner, and that list is shrinking. I used to have Dwight Howard on that list of people, but apparently you can't leave him standing wide open in the corner anymore. So that's something that I see in a lot of these games. Almost all of these games, I see it happen. And it's really, kind of inexplicable to me. The one who I was thinking of against the Jazz, who did it a bunch of times early in the game, was Grant Williams. Grant Williams would come off of his guy in the corner to try to, stop a drive in the paint. And I mean, Mitchell's a good playmaker. So is Conley. So if they're driving the paint and you leave a corner shooter wide open, they're going to see him and they're going to hit him with the pass. And that's probably going to be an easy 3-point shot. And I don't understand. I think Grant Williams played a pretty significant amount of minutes against the Jazz. I could be wrong about that, but I want to say he played like well over 20 minutes. Like, I think he was over 25 minutes against the Jazz. And I'm saying that like in the early game, you're leaving corner shooters wide open. Either either way, you go back to the coaching staff, because like one way you're benching the guy after he leaves the corner shooter.
Grant Williams played 26 minutes. He started the third period. I wanted to ask you later about that adjustment. He started the third period at the center, if I'm correct. Instead of Robert Williams, 26 minutes. Yes.
Yeah.
That is like 6 minutes time among the players, among the Celtics.
Yeah, and so to me, like, here's the thing: as a coach, how do you keep a guy in there? It's repeatedly at the start of the game, he's repeatedly leaving his man in the corner completely uncovered. I can't, either one, you coached him to do that, that's why you're not holding him accountable, right? Or two, he's just doing whatever, tangibly hurting the team, and you're letting him keep playing. And I don't see, either way that you look at that, that's not a good thing on the coach. That's a mark against the coach, either way you look at it. Especially in today's NBA, you cannot leave anybody open in the corner pretty much nowadays. Like they're going, unless it's Ben Simmons, they're going to hit a 3-point shot. And Ben Simmons isn't even playing basketball, so I can't even use his name anymore. So I mean, and so I get back to coaching. I really questioned the coaching decisions here, because like how are we this far into the season and we haven't fixed this? Like, this is a pretty basic mistake that they're making, and I don't understand how that hasn't been fixed. In terms of Grant Williams at center, yeah, I think I said earlier this season on the show, I like Grant Williams and the effort he puts in. I think he's actually very good at positioning himself. In terms of man-to-man defense, Grant Williams is usually good about using his footwork to stay in front of his guy. The problem with him is he's undersized. Yes, he has a long wingspan, but he has no verticals. I don't know if I'm the only one who's noticed this, but he has like virtually no vertical, and I'm not sure why, but you never really see him jump. He's pretty much bound to the ground. And if you're an undersized center, he's really a wing. You're not going to be able to defend an opposing big that way, really. I mean, I guess some people manage to do it. Marcus Smart can kind of do it, but Smart has some vertical. Like, we see Smart jump to contest shots. You don't really see Grant Williams jump to contest shots. He has like a little hop that looks like, like a grade schooler playing hopscotch, but that's not really a vertical. And I don't see how you could play him at center when that's the limit of his vertical athleticism. Because, yeah, he's a strong guy, but that only goes so far. It's not like it used to be where centers would bully you down and then dunk or do a short layup into the basket. More and more centers now, guys like Joel Embiid and, Anthony Davis, all these other centers, they're coming into the league with a skill set that lets them that lets them score in different ways. And it's not enough to just be big and physical and stop them from getting down low in the paint anymore. And good centers like Embiid, if you try to play Grant Williams on them, they're just going to shoot over him. And he has no vertical to contest that shot. I don't really blame him for that. Some guys can jump and some guys just can't, but I don't know why we keep trying to deploy him at center when we know that limitation. So overall, I mean, I feel like in the last 3 games, Boston won the 2 games that they really had to win, which was the Raptors and the Sixers, because we couldn't afford to lose those games and fall further back. The win over the Jazz would have been nice, but it wasn't, compared to the other 2 games, it wasn't as important for us. against Utah, I mean, I think a lot of Celtics fans are going to be, oh, well, they scored 130 points, so that's good. Yes, but that 130 points should come with a big asterisk next to it because 21 of those came from Al Horford, 26 from Dennis Schroeder, 15 from Marcus Smart. And those are all, I believe, noticeably above their season averages. So that's not like we're a team that puts out 130 points a night or could realistically expect to put out 130 points a night. That was just some, very good play from those guys. But I think it's kind of dangerous to read too much into that and act like our offense is back on track because it's not. These guys just, we just had 2 or 3 guys have unusually hot shooting nights. And that kind of buoyed our offense and brought us up to the higher point total. But, if we look at the statistics over the season, we can't expect that. And I think we're really more realistically looking at, the type of scores that we put up against the Raptors and against the Sixers, which are not even close to 130 points. I believe against the Raptors, we put up 109, and against the Sixers, we put up 88. So that's really more what we're looking at, because if you look at our averages, I think the last 130-point game we had, or high hundreds-point game we had, were like the Lakers. I think before that, the Bucks, and most of the other games have been under 100. So, we get lucky, and we have guys, a couple guys get hot on a good night, and we put up good point totals. We're not a great offense, and I stand by what I've said all season. We need a 3-point specialist. We need a 3-point offensive specialist who can carry us and get us those 10 to 15 points every single night off the bench. And, I don't see us I haven't seen any rumors or anything that indicates that we're trying to make a move for that. So until that's fixed, until we get communication on defense, I'm going to agree with Igor and say this is not a contending team. Until they fix the defensive issues, until they or find some offense, consistent offense, then I don't think you could really consider this to be a contending team.
Very good stuff. I mean, I want to talk in the details. In the details, a little later. Let's hear Danny. Danny, are you happy with the last 3 games and Utah Jazz loss? Because I saw at our page that most of the guys are saying that they're happy with the game. They're happy, quote, they're happy because the Celtics fought hard in this game. They were in the game until the very end, and we lost, quote, because Utah Jazz were lucky to hit those threes. I mean, so, quote, I'm proud of the effort that our guys did because, we were just not lucky this game. But do you agree or disagree with that kind of assessment from the Celtics fans and medias?
Well, we know when it comes to Celtic fans, a majority of them, it's always going to be look on the bright side, pretty much. We've been seeing that for years in this situation. But when it comes to this specific 3-game span, I think we got to remember, for one, we were lucky to walk out of that game against Philadelphia with the victory. We nearly blew a 4-point lead in the final minute of that game in this situation, and it took major, I guess you could say a really great defensive effort by Al Horford and Time Lord with that block at the very end in order for us to basically get the victory in this case because of some stupid decision making by Dennis Schroeder and the team not to basically give the ball to the guy who was the hottest player down the stretch for us, which was Jason Tatum in that second half in this case. Even though, Schroeder kind of had, the last few points in the fourth quarter because they kept giving him layup after layup after layup pretty much because they didn't want Tatum having the ball. But still, final few seconds of the game, I've never heard of the ball never going to your best player and you allowing him to basically try to have the opportunity to make the play. Whether he either takes the shot or he makes a shot for somebody else. in this case. The fact that the ball didn't even go in Tatum's direction, in my opinion, was really the problem I had in that game. And you got bailed out of it because of the fact that Horford and Time Lord and Enes Kanter, and I guess you can say Enes Kanter Freedom now in this case, and congrats to him on becoming an official U.S. citizen in this case, managed to hold Joel Embiid down in that game. That was the difference in that game, ladies and gentlemen, that you held the 76ers superstar in check. And that wasn't that one thing we always said, Igor, after the set when it came to the situation of us telling fans, when it came to deciding about going with the young players versus the veterans, and we said, Tatum and Brown ain't going to be able to stop Joel Embiid or Giannis Antetokounmpo or Anthony Davis, but Al Horford, despite the fact that he's old, will be able to if you get him the right other pieces to get to help him when it's time to sit. And look at what we ended up seeing in that game against Philadelphia. After a game like that, I think you can have the confidence that if the Celtics do meet the 76ers in the playoffs, there's a possibility you can knock them out. Now, I don't know if you can basically have that confidence against Milwaukee. I damn sure don't think you can have it against Brooklyn. But against the 76ers, especially if they don't find a way to get rid of Ben Simmons before the end of the season and get somebody to take his position, there's a chance in this case. Especially if Horford and them can continue to stifle Joel Embiid the way they did the other night. Now, yesterday's game against Utah, fans, I think we can remember that, again, like Andy said, you're not going to be putting up 130 points a game in this case like you did last night. Utah, though, you guys, if you look at the defensive leaders in terms of team defense, in terms of points allowed, Utah is the 5th best defensive rated team in this situation, allowing 104.6 points a game. Only the Golden State Warriors, Cleveland Cavaliers, Miami Heat, and Denver Nuggets currently are better than them at this point in the season. And then, of course, the Utah Jazz, in terms of offensive, are the 2nd best team, only behind apparently the Charlotte Hornets, as I'm looking at the leaders here. In this case, as the Hornets average 114.9 points, and the Utah Jazz are 114.2. So you went at it with a team that right now, after yesterday's game, in this case, is 104, is 2nd best right now. I believe Igor will be able to confirm if that is the correct information. So you went at it with the 2nd best offensive team yesterday, who's also the 5th best defensive team right now in the league in this case. And again, you put up 130 on that 5th best team defensively. It's not bad in this case, but again, you had a chance to beat them. That is the key. You had a chance to beat them because you were right there with them down the stretch, and actually you had the lead. That's the other thing. That's the thing that has me pissed off. You had the lead down the stretch in that game, and you let them take the lead right back and blew it. And not only did you let them take the lead and maybe, it wasn't like they took the lead and beat you by 1 point on a buzzer beater like we've seen with some of these other teams that we've lost to as of late. No, you let them pull away and beat you by, in this case, 7 points, I think it was. What does that say about your stars? That Tatum and Brown can't put the game away for you against a team like Utah. Or Horford and Tatum, let's say, or someone like that. But then yet Donovan Mitchell and his team have what it takes to come back and take the lead from you. And I think that's now the 5th game in a row we've lost in this series against these guys. Meaning not only are they beating you in Utah, but they're beating you in Boston also. When is the trend going to change? That you actually finally knock these guys off? There's no excuse for it, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, you can go ahead and you can feel happy that you actually put up a decent performance in terms of scoring 130 points on the 5th best defense in the league right now. But no offense, how in the world can you feel happy that it seems like, this is the fifth loss in a row, which would mean you haven't beaten this team in almost 3 years now? Would you feel happy like that if you haven't been able to beat the Lakers in 3 years? I sure wouldn't. This isn't like an Eastern Conference team that you get to face 3 or 4 times per season. No, this is a Western Conference team that you only get to face twice, which means only once in Boston and once in their court, and you just lost the game now in Utah. Which means if you don't beat them in Boston the next time you see them in this case, which that game I believe it's going to be, maybe I think next month or a month after, you're going to have to wait another whole year before you have a chance. So I'll take a 2-1 stretch, especially that win over Philadelphia, because obviously I don't think we're going to the NBA Finals, which means you damn sure ain't going to be facing the Utah Jazz in the finals, and I don't think Utah's the one going to the NBA Finals from the Western Conference in this case, ladies and gentlemen. But mentally putting an impact on the 76ers is a big thing in my opinion, because you could very well be facing them in round 1. So that's the biggest victory of the week in my opinion.
Danny, the way Boston and Philadelphia are playing right now, I think we will face Philadelphia in play-in tournament rather than the first round. But never mind, that was a joke, hopefully, or maybe not. About the statistic that you asked, offense and defense. Well, I have the chart of the teams based on the net rating, offensive rating minus defensive rating. Boston Celtics are number 11 at that chart with 0.6 plus 0.6 net rating. We are outscoring opponents by 0.6 points per 100 possessions. We are having offensive rating 106.6 and defensive rating 106. The defense is not bad, on the contrary, but the offense is bad. Now, you ask about the Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz, after this game, Danny and Andy and dear listeners and viewers, actually, Utah Jazz, after this game, they're having the best offense in the NBA. Yes, so they are scoring after Boston Celtics win 116.2 points per game. The second offense is based on offensive rating, Golden State Warriors, 112.6 points per game. And the third offense is per offensive rating, you will never guess. Where did I lose them? Yes, not the third, but the fourth. Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte Hornets are scoring 111.5 points, 111.5 offensive rating, 111.5 points per 100 possessions. And the fourth offense is even crazier. Memphis Grizzlies, 111.1. To conclude the story, Utah Jazz are having the best offense based on offensive rating, 116.2 currently in the NBA after 22 games played after the Celtics win. And their defense is allowing 106.5 points per 100 possession, which is the sixth defense in the NBA. Utah Jazz are the best offense, the sixth defense, and based on the net rating, currently they are the second team in the NBA, only behind Golden State Warriors. I don't have point differential, but net rating is good parameter. So Golden State Warriors best in net rating, 13 plus 13. Phoenix, Utah Jazz number 2 plus 9.8. Phoenix Suns number 3, 6.2. Then you have Chicago number 4 plus 4.7. Then you have Miami Heat plus 4.2, Brooklyn Nets 4, etc., etc. Boston Celtics 0.6, like I said, number 11. Good things you said, Danny, and I'm glad that you and I both agree with. I mean, generally, in the last two games, nothing unexpectedly happened. We defeated, like Andy said, and you, Danny, confirmed the teams that we needed to win. Needed to defeat, to say that way, Toronto and Philadelphia at home. Toronto away and Philadelphia at home prior to the road trip. I mean, we must say that Boston Celtics in the last three games, they're playing. I mean, better compared to the previous stretch of games. Not necessarily better, and the mistakes are there. Like Andy said, what is hurting me and why I'm not happy because, you, Dennis said, we were in the game. Actually, we were leading in the game late, and we allowed Utah to surpass us. And about the threes that we allowed, do not give me that kind of crap. Like Utah were lucky to score those threes. I mean, I can understand and I can agree with you on a couple of threes. Donovan Mitchell and Conley, they had some crazy threes, step back threes over the defender. Donovan Mitchell scored like. I don't know how many meters, like 2 meters behind the 3-point line over the defense. Yeah, those threes were lucky, but we didn't allow. I mean, Utah Jazz didn't make 27 lucky threes. Come on. And like Andy said, I mean, it's kind of simple pick and roll defense set. It's kind of picking up the good offensive matchup and defensive matchup. Utah did that in this very game, I thought, and the Celtics didn't defend pick and roll well, I thought, or they were running horns sets with Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell up front, like 1-2-2 set. And from that kind of set, you have shooters at the corners, or the Donovan Mitchell was opening at the elbow for the threes after the simple move or the block or off ball screen, and then he was draining threes without hesitation. Those threes shooting were automatic movement for them. And you are seeing this is the team that is shooting well for threes because they're practicing that, and they have natural shooters, natural 3-point shooters. In Boston Celtics case, I mean, let's face it, and we were talking in the last show, and we will. I mean, I hate to repeat myself, but the Celtics are not good shooting team. And we don't have the good floor spacing. I mean, think about this. What is the best floor spacing lineup for the Celtics? Like Smart, Schroeder, Richardson, Grant Williams, Al Horford, right? That is like the best floor spacing lineup that we can put there. Maybe you can change one player for that, right? I'm talking about Utah Jazz game. You don't have Brown, so I didn't include Brown. So Smart, Schroeder, Richardson, Grant Williams, probably the best shooter for the threes. This game, I thought he was solid, despite, of course, when they put him on the center, he could not contain Gobert at a couple of stretches or Whiteside, but that's not his fault. That's not his natural position, like Andy said. In the fourth, we put Al Horford with similar results at the center against Gobert and Whiteside. I mean, maybe it's time to bring the true center there, but remain to be seen. Again, that lineup of ours, this is not good three-point shooting lineup. And when you don't have the good floor spacing, the good defense, like Utah Jazz defense, and they are sixth defense in the NBA, they will be easy to clog the paint against you. Jason Tatum, Dennis Schroeder, Marcus Smart, they love to penetrate, right? To draw to the line or to go to the hoop. More or less, right? So the defense is going to clog you the paint, to clog you the drawing lines. They are going to send the help defense on those drives, Jason Tatum, Dennis Schroeder, and they're going to allow you the shooters at the corner. They're going to leave with couple of extra corner threes from outside, but they are sure that the Celtics are going to shoot the threes average percent. We shoot it threes 14 out of 39, 35%. Pretty much we are average or slightly above average, 33, 35%. That's where we are. And they're living with that kind of 3% shooting. So we are predictable in the offense because we don't have the floor spacing. That's simple. And we don't have Jaylen Brown, our second best player. And because we don't have Jaylen Brown, they know the defense is who is the main guy there, Jason Tatum, right? So he's going to have the ball in his hands in 60% of the possessions, so they can freely double team Jason Tatum, without too much worrying about the others, because now we can discuss. This is the famous story: is Jason Tatum selfish player or not? He responded to that criticism. I don't want to enter that this way, but Jason Tatum is not having like high passing rate every game. This is not his natural game. Okay, he's a natural scorer, and you're asking something out of him that he didn't develop. Maybe he will be natural passer in like 5 years. Maybe we will talk about Jason Tatum as the creator for the others, for the teammates. Right now, he's not the best creator for the others, and that's just the way it is. He's not selfish player. That's not his game. So they can double team Jason Tatum. They can make him to be less efficient. Okay, even if he is efficient, even if Jason Tatum is scoring 40 without Jaylen Brown, we don't have that other guy who is going to score you enough points for the Celtics to win the game. Of course, we scored 130, and now you will ask me, what are you talking about? But Andy said, Dennis Schroeder 26, Al Horford 21, Smart 15. Richardson 11. Richardson is having solid year, but are you going to really expect from Dennis Schroeder to score you 26 every single game? You will not. I mean, Dennis Schroeder experience is upside down. One moment he's going to score you the clutch three. Other moment he's going to be beat down the stretch on the defense in the pick and roll sets or on allowing some easy points by opponents. Another set he's going to miss the three or going to some mid-range miss like he did. That is Dennis Schroeder experience. And Al Horford, 21 points. He had fantastic game. Okay, he had fantastic game. But Al Horford is too old. You cannot rely on Al Horford every single game to play you the big minutes on the center to bang with Rudy Gobert, Hassan Whiteside, with Joel Embiid, with those kind of guys. You will waste Al Horford's strength on those early games, and later he will injure himself, and then we will be in real troubles because I don't want to rely on the guy who changed his name in Freedom. Or you saw that Ime Udoka is abandoning Robert Williams and he's subbing Robert Williams with Al Horford and Grant Williams in the third and fourth, because he thought that we will have more shooting, obviously, to stretch the defense or something. So I mean, we don't want to waste Al Horford's strength and in those early games, but I'm afraid, that's what we are doing. So to conclude the story, without, Jalen Brown, we don't have number two. Um, I mean, Schroeder is jumping in there, but I don't think that Schroeder is our savior. Schroeder is top three offensive guys. I don't think, and I don't like that. And I don't think that Smart is number three neither. We miss Jalen Brown, and Jalen Brown is another topic that we will touch in a couple of minutes. But let's stop there. I will analyze, the statistic a little later. Let's hear what the guys have to say. Andy, do you have something to say on what I'm talking about? Something to disagree with me, maybe?
No, I mean, like, I think it just, I mean, I think Tatum's done a much better job of moving the ball. It's not necessarily on him that his assists haven't gone up. I think the big problem we get back to is that we aren't a good shooting team. So a lot of his good passes, and yeah, he's had good passes that he's made. He makes the right reads a lot of the time, gets the ball to the guy, and whoever he passes it to just fails to knock down a relatively open or completely open shot. That's not on Tatum. He's making the effort to move the ball. Um, the other thing is, against the Sixers, I thought they were doing a very good job of moving the ball and making extra passes. And I don't think it showed up offensively because we missed a lot of shots. But I thought a lot of plays we did a very good job of trying to make the extra pass and trying to collapse the defense and move the ball. And that was good. The problem is when you have good ball movement and you're getting guys open shots and they can't knock they can't knock most of them down. That's a whole other issue that you're looking at there. And, it goes back to what you said. We're not, what I think all of us have been saying, which is that we're not a good shooting team. We don't have, if you look at Boston, we don't have a 3-point specialist on our bench. We don't have a 3-and-D specialist on our bench. Maybe Grant Williams, you could sort of consider him a 3-and-D, but that would be based almost entirely off of his performance this season, which I don't think you can really do. And he can't, he has good nights, he has bad nights. He's been relatively consistent this year, which is good. But I'm just not ready to really buy into Grant Williams as a 3-and-D guy. And as good as he is at positioning on defense, he's good at getting his hands up. He makes he's a smart. I think Grant Williams is a smart defensive player. He does the right things, but that he's a little bit slower, which means that he gets beat by some of the quicker guards out there. And he doesn't, like I said earlier, he doesn't have a vertical, so he's going to struggle to defend more athletic or bigger players because he doesn't have that vertical. And because everybody in the NBA now seems to be, getting a jump shot. When Dwight Howard is shooting 3-pointers, I mean, that kind of tells you everything that you need to know about it. So that's kind of that's really kind of a problem for Boston, because if you look at most of the good teams out there, they have 3-point specialists. They have 3-and-D guys. And then they also, most of the good teams have playmakers. They have guys that are floor generals who, one of their claims to fame anyway is being able to run an NBA offense. You look at how well Cleveland's done. I keep talking about Ricky Rubio, and I think probably half of the people who follow us on Facebook probably think I have like some weird obsession with Rubio. But if you look at what Ricky Rubio does, almost every team he's gone to has done better when they added him to the roster. Now, I don't think he's not a long-term solution, obviously, because he keeps getting moved on from. But it's obvious that he brings something to the table where he can help to direct an offense, and he can help to teach other guys how to direct offense and how to make their teammates better. And I think we saw that in Phoenix, because like Chris Paul is getting all the hype because they went, and rightfully so. They went to the NBA Finals, and that's a huge accomplishment. But people forget that the Suns had started to make significant improvements, because remember how well they did leading into that play-in tournament during the COVID shortened season, and that was with Ricky Rubio. We look at Cleveland now. Once again, they added Ricky Rubio to the roster, and he's playing pretty significant minutes in a lot of games. And I think that's what you're looking, I think that's where you see kind of the value of having a floor general and having somebody who knows how to direct an offense and knows how to make their teammates better and make the game easier for them. And we don't have that in Boston. I think that what we did against Utah that was effective on some level was we made Horford into a playmaker. And we've done that before, just 17-18. You remember we had Horford operate as the primary playmaker in several instances. And that's doable because Horford is an unselfish player. He's a high IQ player. He makes the right passes. He makes the right reads. But, I'm kind of reluctant to see making our 35-year-old center into our primary playmaker. I can see, there's some pretty serious issues with that plan. So when you look at our roster, we're just not really well constructed. To what Daniel said, can we be happy with losing to the Jazz? No, we're not happy with losing to anybody, but what do we expect? The Jazz are they're a better constructed team than us. We're not a well-constructed team. We have two good players. I don't care what any Celtics fans say. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are both great players who have who are at the potential to be perennial all-stars. Like if they had a team around them, I think those two would be perennial all-stars. That's the level of talent they have. But nobody's going to be tremendously successful without a good team built around them. And I think that the equivalent team that we see in the West is the LA Clippers. LA Clippers, two very talented players. We all know how good Kawhi Leonard is. We know Paul George has made some improvements, so he's not a playoff meme anymore. So that's an improvement. But they have two supremely talented players. They have a solid, a lot of good role players on their roster. They have Morris, they have Batum, Zubac. Those are solid role players, but they don't have anybody who's directing that off. Reggie Jackson, sort of, but he's really more of a scorer. And we saw what happened to them the last couple of years in the playoffs. And I think it's a lot of the same issues because you have basically Kawhi was injured, but it turns into their two stars trying to win the game with mild contributions from everybody else. Yeah, you could win some games that way in the regular season. You could beat subpar playoff opponents like that. If you're like the 2 seed against the 7 seed, you can win games like that. You could win a series like that. But in terms of competing at the highest level and trying to win a title, you're not going to win in the modern NBA unless with your best players winning the game for you. That's not how the modern NBA is going to work unless your best player is LeBron James. Because as much as Celtics fans hate LeBron, he is a generational talent, arguably a historically great. I don't think you can really make the argument, even if you hate James. I don't like LeBron, but looking at what he's done, he is a historically great talent. There's only one or two people in the NBA who have accomplished what LeBron James has done with the teams that he's done it with. So yeah, when you have a guy like that, yeah, you're fine. Maybe the Mavericks can pull it off eventually with Luka, because Luka has some of the same traits where he could have that same sort of historically great talent. But those players don't come along very much. And in case nobody's noticed, Luka's with the Mavericks, not with the Celtics. And he's the only one I see in this generation of players that even looks like he might have the potential to be on that level. Tatum and Brown are very good players. Like I said, they're perennial all-stars, but they're not LeBron. They're not, they don't have that LeBron or Michael potential. And without that, you're not going to win having the two of them trying to win games all on their own while, we sacrifice chickens and do rain dances and pray that Dennis Schroeder and Grant Williams have hot shooting nights. That's not a way to win a title. That doesn't make us a contender. And I think we've been saying this, or at least I know I've been saying this for a couple of years now. And I don't understand where the Celtics management doesn't grasp that concept, especially under the Danny Ainge era, because Danny Ainge he's a good playmaking point guard. And I guess that was probably one of the most inexplicable things to me. I've wondered maybe if, I think Rozier was kind of his guy, because Rozier kind of fit the mold of point guards that Danny Ainge has liked in the past. Like, you look at Rondo, Rozier had a lot of the same kind of traits that Rondo had in a lot of ways. And maybe when we lost Rozier, it just got, it was kind of like when the Patriots lost Jimmy Garoppolo, it just kind of threw everything in disarray. So maybe that was the case. But whatever the case is, I mean, yeah, it sucks that we lost Rozier, but there's plenty of other good playmaking point guards, versatile playmaking point guards out there. And this management, Brad Stevens and, his staff, they need to go out and find somebody, because you're not going to win if you're relying on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to, morph into Michael Jordan and carry the team through the playoffs. Yes, it could happen. Anything could happen. I mean, Elon Musk could colonize Mars in the next 10 years and we'll have a Martian league. It's not very likely, but, so we, I feel like we're going to watch the same thing, and we're going to have the same conversations over and over again until Celtics management addresses that issue. And like I said, it's really kind of inexplicable to me as to why they haven't. Why do we keep looking for scoring point guards? Why, we've tried it. It's failed twice with Kyrie and Kemba. The definition of insanity, trying to do the same thing the same way over and over again and expecting a different result. We need to go and find. I've never understood why we didn't go after a guy like Ricky Rubio in free agency. He wouldn't be that expensive. And I think we'd see a much different Celtics team if we had somebody who was focused on getting the ball to Jaylen and Jason in the right spots. This would be a dramatically different team. It would open up the floor for guys like Grant Williams, who are good open spot up shooters, because it would, it just would. And I don't think I don't think we're going to see this team legitimately compete until we get a playmaker. And then just the last thing for me, I forgot what I was going to say. Never mind. That's going to be kind of the last thing. It was something Daniel brought up, and I can't remember what it is now, but it was, oh goodness. Oh, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it then for me. I just, we need somebody to run the offense. We need better team construction on this roster, because right now it's a collection of talent. It's not really a team. And that shows. It shows on the offense, and it shows on the defense too, because yes, our defense has been very good, but like we've pointed out, against the Jazz, against the Sixers, there are defensive breakdowns that show that these guys do not communicate and play as a team. And I think that's a major problem. I think, I was going to say we need captains. Like, I don't know what the Boston Celtics aversion to naming a team captain is. I really don't know. Like, I don't know if we're an experiment in communism, or, Bradism is going to be the next form of a communist regime, where we're all equal. I don't know what's going on, but you need to have a captain. You need to have a leader. Like, you look at like Donovan Mitchell directs the Jazz team on both ends of the floor, right? We see him do that. Dallas, we see Luka direct his team. He directs them on the defensive end too, which I'm not really that excited about, because let's say Luka Doncic, he learned, he's from the LeBron James school of defense. But we see, we see these guys lead their teams, and it's easier for them because when you're coach, yes, it's just a title, and yes, you have to have the personality and all that other stuff. But when the coach designates you as a captain, it helps to give you that little bit of extra authority, where the team and the franchise has shown that they trust you, and they are delegating the authority of the franchise and of the team to you. And we just need that. It would help to establish a pecking order, because right now it doesn't really look like there's anybody in charge a lot of the time. It just looks like a lot of guys who are kind of quiet. Like, I think they're all good guys. I think they're all smart guys. but it doesn't look like anybody's really in charge. I mean, Smart tries to yell at people and get them into line. But I think at some level, Smart does that so much he kind of gets tuned out. And Smart's just all about passion. It's not like a Chris Paul or somebody like that who has. I mean, like Chris Paul, another great example. He directs the Suns on both ends of the court, and he had the NBA pedigree to walk into that organization and take Devin Booker, the face of the Suns franchise, and tell him, "Hey, Devin, hey, you gotta do this, and put him on the floor, help him position defensively, tell him what, help mentor him on the offensive end." And Chris Paul could come in there and do that because he had that pedigree, and he has that respect. And Boston, we don't really have a guy like that. Maybe Horford, but Horford is so. Horford's it just strikes me as being a more quiet guy, I guess, than Chris Paul is. I think Horford could be the captain very easily, but I also think it's harder for him when nobody's delegating that authority. And the same thing to Smart, same thing to Jason, same thing to Jalen. At some point in time, you have to have a team captain. I've never seen a sports team that functioned. I've never been on any team that functioned well without a team leader. I mean, it doesn't mean that leader is a step above everybody else. Like, I've worked in environments with, in the military and in the, overseas in the private security world where, everybody had a very high level of expertise. And the team leader isn't the boss. It's more of like a first amongst peers type situation, but he has that authority that was delegated primarily by, in the private world by other members of the team. We all kind of agree this is the guy we respect. This is the guy we're going to follow. So you're the team leader. And his word goes because we recognize we're all mature enough. We're all professional enough. We realize that we've delegated that authority and we, when push comes to shove in a difficult situation, we follow his lead because he's the one we delegated to be the leader. And I think you could have a similar situation in Boston, but you have to name somebody. I don't know why we don't do that. Like I said, Bradism is the next form of communism. So that's where we're at. So,
excellent stuff, Andy. Daniel, I have stats to analyze, but let me ask you, what do you think about Andy's discussion? And do you agree that lack of the true playmaker or the floor general, as we say it, is the Boston's biggest problem right now?
Well, I would say in this situation that when it comes to the issue with Tatum, I think one of the biggest things that people should be looking at, other than trying to claim, oh, he's selfish, he doesn't share the ball, is what was the point of this brother beefing up during the off season when he takes so many threes? Tell me, you guys, I would think that I would prefer to see this kid attacking the rim more often. He's got the body to be a lot more like LeBron James. Think about how many calls LeBron gets. Now, obviously, we know that this is a league that when it comes to superstars like LeBron, the Kawhis, and all that, those guys, the league treats them like they're made of glass, and they can't afford for those guys to be hurt in any sort of way because they're the ones that bring in the money. I've been saying this for years to you guys. So you touch those guys and forget it. They're going to be getting a foul call each and every time. And, let it be too much of a foul, and you're going to be getting looked at for a flagrant 1 or a flagrant 2. Tatum's not in a position right now to be getting those type of, that type of treatment yet. But the more he keeps settling for three-pointers and outside shots rather than actually attacking the rim and trying to force the issue, the more he's going to continue to sit in that type of position where he's not going to get that type of treatment from the refs. I literally thought that he was actually getting that body of his beefed up so he could actually try to play a little bit more like LeBron. And I think that's what we need to see, you guys. Yeah, we need a floor general. I agree with Andy when it comes to that as well. But I think if you start playing a little bit more where we're attacking the rim and we're getting these teams to actually get a little bit more pressure rather than us just letting 30-something three-pointers get jacked up every night in this case, we might actually make things a little bit more easier for ourselves right now let things get a little bit more easier for ourselves on the offensive end because how many teams out there can really stop Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown if they really start getting into their aggressive, that aggressive stance and really go on the attack each and every night? And if you can't stop them and you start putting all your mindset into trying to stop those two, then that opens up things for everybody else. And yeah, like Andy just said, you still gotta hope that guys like Richardson and Schroeder and Smart and Grant Williams will nail the 3-pointers and the jumpers and all that when you get the ball to them. But it's going to be a lot more easier, and you're going to get a lot more open shots if you're basically attacking and then kicking the ball out to the open man because you're drawing in 2 or 3 guys at you because they don't want to let you get an easy layup than you are if you're basically taking one 3-pointer on taking a 3-pointer on a pick and roll move, knowing that it's a contested 3, and you're just trying to force a ball. And that's one thing we've been having so many issues with throughout the early part of the season. The play we've been having, you guys, we've been turning the ball over a lot. I think the turnover is one of the top reasons why we've been losing so many of these games. We turn the ball over, it leads to a lot of transition baskets, easy points, and then, our coach has to be calling a lot of timeouts, and we do not get that opportunity to get those same opportunities going back the other way. Yeah, we play some good defense, but our defense doesn't really cause many turnovers. Our defense causes misses in this case. But you know how many times I hear Scalabrine saying, push the ball up the floor. And our guys just seem to take the ball up the court slowly in this situation to get into a half-court offense. Because again, they want to do it like that. It seems like they just want to settle for a 3-pointer. The only one that really seems to give this team a nice kick in the rear to basically start attacking the rim is Schroeder. Sometimes, you want to talk about a captain, Andy. If it's not Marcus Smart, it might have to be Dennis Schroeder at this point. Because he's the one that seems to basically kickstart this offense when things are not going the right direction because he gets into an aggressive mode. Tatum would rather continue to settle for threes, and Jaylen Brown seems to be the same way. What makes LeBron, as much as I hate the guy basically because of the way the league, people hate Tom Brady for all the winning he did with the Patriots, the cheating and all that, the special treatment from the refs. That's the same way I look at LeBron in this case. Well, that's one thing I got to give LeBron credit for. The man, he tells me, give me the ball. Same way Kevin Garnett said it about Pierce, you guys. Give the ball to Paul Pierce, get the hell out the way. Well, that's the mentality LeBron has, ladies and gentlemen. Give me the ball, get the hell out the way. I'm attacking that rim in this situation, and I'm either getting a basket or I'm getting a call. Well, why in the world can't our guys seem to get that same mentality? I understand, you don't get the officials giving you the calls often, but you got to keep attacking. Especially if you know you're playing a team that's supposedly lower than you in the standings, and you know they're not going to be a playoff contender. If the officiating doesn't give you the calls in a situation like that, then that lets you know the league doesn't consider you a top team in the league anymore. Like, come on. If the Celtics are playing a team, I'm just giving an example, they're playing a team like the Detroit Pistons, 4-18. They're not going anywhere this year. If you're attacking like crazy, Tatum and Brown, and you still can't get foul calls against a team like that, then that means the Boston Celtics are not viewed as a team that's important by the NBA. Because if it's the Lakers who are doing it like that, attacking, or the Golden State Warriors or the Brooklyn Nets, the foul calls are coming by the hundreds if they have the opportunity. So that's one of my criticisms when it comes to Tatum. I feel he does share the ball, but he doesn't do it in the right way. I would rather see him go in the attack and get himself going and getting into a groove, and then once he's kind of, inflicted his will on the other team, then you start sharing the ball with everybody else. But, come on, I don't need to see you taking no 10, 20, 30, 33-pointers in this game, in this situation, or taking every shot from outside with the body you got. For that, what the hell was the plan of beefing up to begin with? There was no plan of doing that. If you're not going to use the new body basically to help the team out. So he's showing you guys he's got the mindset to go in the right direction. But as of right now, ladies and gentlemen, I think the only reason why some of his assist numbers have been going in the right direction, you guys, is because he hasn't been playing as well as he could, as well as he would like to. And if he's, how many times have we seen already Horford outplay him and end up with 4 points, or Schroeder, or Jaylen Brown, or Marcus Smart? It's not like Tatum has been the leading scorer in every game, you guys. This season, Tatum has been, in some pretty rough stretches this season. So I would rather see that happen. Get yourself going at the beginning of the game because you're the Michael Jordan of this team. You're the Paul Pierce of this team. You're the LeBron of this team. The keys to the car were handed to you in this situation. With Jaylen Brown being second in command. You may not have the official C on that shirt, but you're basically the numero uno of this team right now. Until somebody else basically comes and takes it, if they get a veteran superstar at some point who's already an established champion. Until that time, you got to get yourself going and basically do exactly what we see guys like LeBron, Durant, Kawhi, and the rest of them doing in this case, because the time for excuses, the times for saying I need to develop and all that, we've already gone way past that, ladies and gentlemen. So, you guys, that's how I see it. He's got the right mindset when it comes to sharing the ball and all of that, but we need to see him be able to do that while still getting himself into a groove in this situation. If he can't do both those things, and it can only be one or the other, this team is screwed.
There is ongoing discussion that the people tagged me in. Apparently, some guy on the Celtics blog, I think he's in our page. Jack Simon wrote criticism to Jaylen Brown, which I disagree with. That he's struggling beyond his injuries, that kind of stuff. I mean, we will come to Jaylen Brown a little later because I think that then he's gone because he's driving to his work. Okay, we are still live, Andy, and we are going to drive at this chat as long as we can, of course. So there is some criticism to Jaylen Brown, Andy. Then he's going to work, of course, but that he's struggling beyond his injuries. Now, before reading the statistics of the game, I must ask you, Andy, I mean, the discussion is now Jaylen Brown had another, not important his game right now, but he's having another setback in his injury. Now, when Bobby Manning asked Ime Udoka about Jaylen Brown hamstring injury, did you guys rush Jaylen Brown back into the lineup earlier than he should be playing, or did you rush him in, or do you think that he's having another setback? Ime is saying like, okay, it is not like rushing in, but if you looked official stat sheet prior to the Utah game, he's having some strange listing or strange paraphrasing, so he's out again. When he will play, we will see. And when he was playing the last couple of games, you could see that he's struggling because of that injury. He is not comfortable jumping. He is not comfortable running, hitting the other players, and this is not Jalen Brown that we are used to watch. This is not struggling in his game. This is struggling with hamstring injury. This is not a joke. But my question is, Andy, for you, do you think this is do you think this is like the time to hit the panic button on Jalen Brown? We kind of discuss. Some articles are saying that Jalen Brown is injury prone. I disagree with that. But do you think that he's heading into that direction? Because are you worried about his setback? Because when you look at like this is like game 23, right? And he will be out in a while. And when we are close to 30th game in the season, Jalen Brown will be healthy, fully healthy, like 10 games or 11. So he will be healthy only in 30% of the time in the first 30 games, which is not good, of course. And we are heading into, uh, I mean, soon we will be close to 50% of the regular season games, 41. Are you worried about Jalen Brown setback? Do you think this is a setback despite Ime Udoka is demanding that? Uh, and I mean, it is a setback because he's not playing, but hopefully he will return soon. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's always, if a guy's got a sort of recurring injury, there's always some cause for concern. But I wouldn't say Jalen Brown has really played that badly this season. I don't know where that's coming from. I feel like a lot of times fans are very prone to reacting to one or to a small sample size of games. And you have a guy who has like a couple bad games, and all of a sudden like, oh, he's regressing this season. It's like, no, he's just having a bad set of games. Most players will go through spells of games where they perform at a at a lower or a higher level, just over the course of the season. That's just kind of how it works. Um, we look at Jalen Brown throughout this season. I mean, yes, his percentages are down, but he's also missed more games because of the injury. And, anytime a player misses games, their stats usually fall because, not only are they missing that game time, they're also not getting into a rhythm. And that rhythm's very important for almost everything in basketball, really. Um, and if they're not getting that rhythm, pretty much all of their statistical categories are going to suffer. We look at Jalen Brown, he's shooting 46.3% from the field, 36.5% from beyond, which is definitely down from last year. But shooting, especially, is very, very susceptible to getting out of rhythm. So I'm not overly concerned with that. I mean, like, to put that in perspective, he still has a 53.4% effective field goal percentage, which is incredible. That's still very, very good. So I'm not concerned. Um, his rebounds are down, but he's been if his hamstring's been tight for a lot of the games that he has played, I would kind of expect his rebounds to be down. And Tatum's rebounds are up too. So, I think some of that's also Tatum. And in answer to what Daniel was saying, part of the reason Tatum bulked up was to rebound better. And that's shown because Tatum has improved noticeably in rebounding and shot blocking this year. So that's a big part of the reason that he bulked up. But I do think that, in some ways, Jalen's going to have fewer rebounds if Jason has more. Like, there's only so many rebounds that go around, right? Um, and so I'm not overly concerned about Jalen Brown in terms of his production. I think the injury is a little bit more concerning, but a tight hamstring is not the end of the world. Most hamstring tightness is just that. It's a tight muscle. and it usually gets better with rest and relaxation. You don't usually need a form of extensive treatment for it. The danger is actually more so if we play him or expect him to log heavy minutes or participate in intense practices with that injury. Because what happens with leg injuries, anybody who's ever done sports or had an active job knows that when you try to exercise with an injured leg, any type of injury on your leg, you will naturally and largely subconsciously compensate. And that actually, that's much more dangerous because now you're running differently, you're jumping differently, and that stresses muscles and tendons in ways that they're not used to being stressed. And that's when you have a chance for serious injuries like muscle or tendon tears. And that's definitely what we don't want to have happen. So I think personally, my opinion is if the guy feels like he needs to rest him. Jaylen Brown's still a very young player. There's no reason to risk a potentially career-changing injury to win 2, 3, 4 extra regular season games. That there's no point to that at all. So, I'm not super concerned about Jaylen. My bigger concern is if we're trying to play him in heavy minutes with a heavy workload and he is injured, that would be a lot more concerning to me. My biggest concern, I think, with both Jaylen and Jason and Horford, is that because of the fact that we don't really have a whole lot on our bench still, there's a really heavy load on those guys because they're expected to defend at a high level. We actually have pretty good defenders on our bench. I'll go out and say that. The problem is because we don't have good offensive players, Jaylen, Jason, and Al are playing a lot of minutes, and they have an incredibly high workload because we're winning games by defense, which means that when they're on the court, they have to put a lot of effort into defense because that's how we're winning games. But then conversely, just for the Celtics to be competitive, they have to put in a ton of effort on offense as well because, outside of Jaylen, Jason, Horford, and Schroeder, I mean, we have no offense, basically. I mean, barring, like a hot night here and there from Smart or Grant Williams, we don't have an offense outside of those guys. So that's very troubling because it puts, I think a lot of fans don't realize how much effort it takes to be a true two-way player. Like, we make, people make fun of LeBron for not playing defense. And, I'm one of the people who makes fun of him for not playing defense. I think I already have once this show. But there's a reason for that. And especially in Cleveland, LeBron was most of the offense. And LeBron knows basketball incredibly well. And he knows that you can't, over an entire 80 something game season, when you figure, games that he misses or rests for 70 to 80 game season, you can't put forward 110% effort on both ends of the court because you just have a high chance of injuring yourself. The human body is not designed to take, no matter how well you condition, your body is only designed to take so much stress. I think anybody who's played professional sports or been in, the physical side of the military knows that because, like you can condition, like for me, I conditioned, I worked out every day, an hour, 1.5 to 3 hours every day. And I still have back, knee, and shoulder problems from when I was in the military because when you're my size, I'm 5'4", and I weigh about 130 pounds, 135 on a good day. You're not designed to carry 100 pounds of gear for 8 to 10 hours straight over and over again. And that messes with your body because the human body just has some design limits to it. And when we play these guys in those big minutes, and expect them to exert that type of effort on both ends of the court, that puts a lot of wear and tear on their bodies. And so really it's hard for me to say, like Jaylen and Jason are injury prone. Well, we're putting them into a situation where most human beings will get injured because you're putting so much expectation for extreme physical exertion on both ends of the court on them. I don't think it's really reasonable. And, we can all say, they're professional athletes. But if you look at a lot of the good teams out there, they have defensive specialists, they have offensive specialists. And those guys don't play big minutes, but they come in there so that the star players can get a little bit of rest on one end of the court so that they're not forced to exert themselves 110% on both ends all game long. And I think that's Boston's, one of Boston's biggest issues. And, I'm concerned about that more than I'm concerned about anything specific with Jaylen Brown right now.
Listen, I would not take Jaylen Brown's statistic right now at all as something to concern. And I disagree with everybody that is writing that. I think it's laughable to write that Jaylen Brown is um, struggling after 23 games and he's missing how many games? I don't know, like 7, 6, or maybe half of 23 games. So you cannot draw the conclusion about the season from small sample size. Like you said, Andy, some of the statistical categories are down, some are not. But when Jaylen Brown is healthy, and he will be healthy hopefully in New Year, to say that way. He is all-star. He's second best player, or actually, he was probably the best player that the Celtics had, the most consistent last year, like we talked. And he is the force, like Danny said, alongside Jason Tatum when he's having his day and when he's at the peak of his form. You know. He's unstoppable in what he's doing. He developed the jumpers inside arsenal of jumpers, and he's playing very good offense in transition about the break, and very few teams can stop him. About the injury, that's what I'm talking about. There is a reason to be concerned, because if I'm counting, this is like 1 month of Jaylen Brown's injury, this way, that way, like recovering or returning to the floor, then playing, then probably re-injure himself or setback because of some pain. So there is a setback, and like you said, I wish that they are not playing him until he is fully healthy, because we need him at the second half of the season, and bottom line, in the future years. This is not the year in which we are going to be in the NBA Finals, so we need Jaylen Brown this year. No, of course we want Jaylen Brown to be healthy and ready, prepared for the next years, when we will be hopefully contenders one day, the true contenders. I'm not worried about Jaylen Brown as a player. What I'm saying is, it will not be good for the Celtics if Jaylen Brown aggravates some injuries or serious injuries, so that his availability is down. You know what I'm talking about. I don't want Jaylen Brown to turn into Robert Williams number 2, or to be more evil, into Romeo Langford number 2. Romeo Langford injured himself kind of in Utah game, returned or didn't return, questionable for tonight's game. I don't have his injury status update. Poor guy cannot catch a break. So he's one of the players that is having low availability rate, okay, in the season, alongside Robert Williams. I don't want Jaylen Brown to join that kind of company, because we have a couple of guys that are just injury prone, and that is just a reason to be concerned. If you are the Celtics, we need Jaylen Brown, and but if I have to choose, like you said, from not playing Jaylen Brown or playing him right now, I would prefer him to sit the games, even if we lose the whole 5 games in the road trip, and to recover. So potentially after the new year, he will be healthy and should be healthy. Now, some of his numbers are down, but again, he's playing throughout the injuries, and you cannot analyze his game when he's not fully healthy. When he returns from the injury, when he's fully healthy in January, February, then we can analyze on the large sample size his games and his progress. Right now, I don't think that you can analyze Jalen Brown game objectively. I hope that you agree with me, Andy.
Yeah, I do. I think it's really hard to judge Jalen Brown at this point. I've also wondered. I mean, does Ime Udoka realize this? I mean, Udoka knows basketball. I mean, we could all criticize some of his coaching decisions, but you can't deny that the man knows basketball. So I mean, like, I don't think anybody who really knows basketball, except for maybe positive Pollyanna, Brad Stevens there, maybe, but I don't think anybody who knows basketball can say that this current Celtics team is legitimately contending for an NBA title this year. I mean, like I said, maybe Brad Stevens is probably the only one who I know that's positive Pauly enough to believe that. So if Udoka realizes that, then it may be that he's resting Jalen and putting him on the injury list more to try to keep him healthy and let him recover. I mean, it's not beyond. Teams are always very cagey about how they handle injuries because they don't want to let their opponents know. They don't want to alarm the fan base. So, I don't. It's entirely possible that that's playing into this situation. Udoka's just resting him more because he knows that it's not that the season's lost and he's trying to throw the season, but the season isn't competitive enough where he feels like every games are going to count and he needs Jalen Brown to play through an injury. So I think that's also very possible as well. With Langford, I mean, Langford is one of those guys. I just he has promise, he has potential, but at this point, I have a hard time seeing him realize that potential because he's lost so many years to injury after injury after injury. He could never get in a rhythm. He could never go through like a full season or even close to a full season, it seems, and actually play basketball through the whole season and get into that groove and get a feel for the grind of the NBA season. I just don't, at this point, I don't know if that's going to change because we haven't really seen anything from him except injury report. And, you're kind of the same boat with Time Lord. Time Lord, very, very good when he's healthy. But his history in the NBA tells us that he's only going to be available for about half of a given year. And, that's problematic too. Maybe, and obviously, like I said, teams are cagey about their players' health. So it could be that there was an issue that was causing those repeated injuries with Time Lord and it's something that has somehow been resolved. That's possible. Maybe that's why Boston was more willing to bank on a short center rotation because they felt that his, whatever underlying the cause there was had been treated or was gone and he would be able to do a full season healthy. I feel like that was a little bit optimistic, but that's also possible. But I think it's also important for fans to realize that when guys are injured, even when you're working out, right? Even when you can work out through your injury and you can still shoot and all those other things, if you're injured, you're not playing basketball. You're not fully conditioning the way that you would if you were healthy. I mean, you would think that that's pretty obvious, but I think a lot of fans kind of miss that. You can still work on your shot. You can still work on your passing. You can still, maybe work out your upper body or do some basic lower body drills, but you're not doing the same intensity. I mean, that's the whole thing with being injured is you can't do the same intensity. And so when they come back, when players come back from injury, there's almost always going to be a drop off in their production. And B, there's also a real chance of re-injury, and re-injury is obviously one of the major concerns. Yeah, I think some of the problem when you give a guy, like a week or a week and a half off or 2 weeks off, 2 weeks is enough for your body to fall out of that rhythm that you've developed over the season or over, these games that you've played in a season. And so you come back from 2 weeks and you remember how things were 2 weeks ago, because even I can remember stuff that how things were 2 weeks ago, right? And so you go back and you try to play at that same level of intensity, dribbling, driving, stopping on a dime, dunking, all these different things that you were doing, but your body has been less active for 2 weeks. Your muscles are a little bit tighter, your tendons are a little bit tighter. And if you go and try to jump back and immediately go 0 to 60 back up to that previous level of activity, you have a very, very high chance of re-injuring yourself or injuring something else. And I think that's something that fans don't realize. It's not necessarily that the player's not healthy. It's that they try to jump back in, they try to do too much too fast, and then they re-injure themselves. And that's not necessarily a mark on the player's health. That's something that's basic human anatomy and would probably happen to most of us. It's the same way as, if you or me went from sitting on the couch for 2 weeks, then went and tried to do a full CrossFit class, we would definitely, we'd have a high chance of injuring ourselves in that class, especially as, you get closer to my age, where, which is, Horford's age, where, your body just doesn't recover. It doesn't bounce back as easily as it used to. And that's why, that's why it's unreasonable for fans to expect guys to come back from injury and jump right back in and be exactly how they were before. And if a guy is doing that, then honestly, it's kind of concerning to me in some ways, because it tells me, is he working too hard? Is he going to re-injure himself? So, that's, and with the Celtics, I am very, like I said, I'm very concerned that we're putting too much pressure on our star players, because of the fact that we don't have a team really built around them. And obviously in that situation, with putting more pressure on star players to perform at a high level on both ends of the court, you dramatically increase the chances for players to re-injure themselves. And I've wondered about that for quite a while now, because, over the years, we've had a lot of debates about, is there a problem with the Celtics medical staff? Why are our guys always getting injured? Well, I think that's part of the reason right there is you think about these years where we've looked at them and said, wow, Celtics, we always seem to have a lot of injured players. Well, those years coincide with a lot of the years where we haven't really had a deep team, and we've put a lot of weight on our star players and our starters, and those are the guys getting injured. So I'm kind of sitting there, I'm like, well, it might not be a failing with medical staff. This might also be yet another thing in Boston that goes back to our roster construction. When you don't have a deep roster and you expect guys to play big minutes and carry a huge load in those big minutes, you have a higher chance of those guys getting injured than a team that's able to monitor and, and restrict their players' workload a little bit more. So, I'm actually kind of leaning more and more in that direction, because we're seeing more and more players who come to Boston. They don't have injury histories before. They don't have extensive injury histories before. And all of a sudden they come to Boston. After a little while in Boston, they're injured over and over again. And, you don't get to be on a professional sports medical staff by being incompetent, usually. I mean, there are obviously exceptions to the rule, but it would be pretty unusual to have a completely incompetent medical staff, especially on a big market franchise. Boston's a big market franchise, in terms of our international market, especially. The Celtics are a big franchise. It would be very surprising if we had an entirely incompetent medical staff. What's not as surprising is they're coming to Boston. There's a huge amount of expectation. They're played in big minutes. They're expected to play 110% on both ends of the court. And there's just too much stress being put on their bodies, and they're getting injured because we don't have the guys to rotate in and out with them, spell them, let them. Even if this is why I talk about offensive specialists. Even if the guy is playing on the court with Jason and Jalen, it gives Jason and Jalen a little bit of a break, because they don't have to go 110% on the offensive end, because now you have a guy that they can give the ball to and let him play offense for a little bit. And that's something I think a lot of people miss, is it's not about replacing them in the rotation. It's about putting guys on the floor with them who can make the game easier for them. We think about making the game easy in terms of easy shots, but also physically easier. If I know you can score 15 points a game, if I pass you the ball at the right time, I don't have to exert as much energy. I just have to drive in and wait until the defender collapses, kick the ball out to you, and then I could kind of stop a little bit, as opposed to now, with the way it is now, I have to dribble, spin, stop, fake, shoot. That's all energy. It doesn't seem like a lot, but over the course of the game, when you're doing those movements over and over again, it does wear you down physically. And I think that's I think it goes back to roster construction. The more I think about that, the more I'm leaning that way in terms of what's causing what seems to be a lot of injuries on our team. More and more I'm going that way. And I think some of the other guys, I think some of the guys, like the bench guys, like Langford, is just injury prone. I mean, like, that guy is, I don't know, he's made out of porcelain or something. So, Time Lord, we all knew had injury concerns. Like, that was a known concern with Time Lord before the draft. So that's not incredibly surprising. We took a gamble. I personally, as much as the guy gets injured, I think we won that gamble hands down, because he is an awesome player when he's healthy. And what did we take him with? What was he, like the 16th or something pick in the draft? He was a pretty high draft pick.
Even lower. I think 20 and something. I must check.
Yeah. So I mean, like, you look at a guy like the production we get from him when he's healthy, from where we took him in the draft, I have no problem with that whatsoever, because that was a dice roll pick anyway, and I would argue that we won that pick. Would I like for him to be healthy all the time? Yeah, obviously I would, but I'm not going to complain. It's not like he was a number one pick that can't stay healthy, But yeah, that's where I'm kind of leaning, Igor. Is I really think that the lack of roster construction, the lack of depth, just puts too much stress on our players, and that's a major factor that's contributing to our injuries.
Thanks, Andy. About Robert Williams, I'm searching for the information. So, on 2018 draft, instead of he was supposed to be Robert Williams, to be lottery pick, top 12 pick. He fell to the 27th pick overall because he was red flagged because of the injuries. And he was selected as 27th pick by the Boston Celtics due to the concerns about his injury status, red flagged, and about, quote, his work ethic. I think he overcame that label. So on July 5th, 2018, Boston Celtics signed Robert Williams. Robert Williams didn't initially make a good impression. He has been criticized for showing up late and missing team functions. His reputations from missing flights and video meetings caused him to earn the moniker of Time Lord online as the Celtics. But his statistics are awesome. And by the way, to support your story, Andrew, about Robert Williams has been a great player. I had one graphic, if I can find it, of course, about Robert Williams and Marcus Smart. A powerful connection, something to be Marcus Smart, who is maybe the best Celtics player overall when you look offensive and defensive production. Despite, of course, Jason Tatum is the star and the most points per game, but maybe Marcus Smart is the best Celtics player this season. So powerful connections, plus 2.3 net rating. Marcus Smart and Robert Williams, they are having plus 13.2 net rating in 363 minutes together. Marcus Smart and Robert Williams are the 10th best two-man lineup in the NBA. And they are best two-man lineup in the Celtics. Again, Marcus Smart and Robert Williams plus 13.2 net rating. They are the best two-man lineup in the Celtics. They have offensive rating, guys, 109.8 and defensive rating 96.5. Now I will. We didn't analyze before returning to Danny. Welcome back, Daniel. So I mean, I will let you to prepare, Daniel, before speaking again. Against Utah, Boston Celtics, Robert Williams, 15 minutes only. I said Grant played more on 5 and Horford on 5. Horford played 34 minutes and Grant 26 minutes. I don't like Grant at 5 too much because he's better at 4, and also he's better with starting lineup. When Grant Williams is playing with starting lineup of Marcus Smart, then Al Horford, then Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, he's shooting 44% for threes. And when he's with the reserves, 36% for threes. So he's benefiting from playing in starting lineup at position number 4, which is more his natural position. Anyway, Robert Williams played 15 minutes, 8 points, 5 rebounds. Marcus Smart 37 minutes, 15 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Al Horford 21 minutes, 6 rebounds and 9 assists. Fantastic game and 1 steal from Al Horford. Dennis Schroeder, he played 26 minutes. 38 minutes, which is the most minutes with Jason Tatum. 26 minutes, 2 rebound, 26 points for 38 minutes, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal. Jason Tatum, 38 minutes, 37 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Naismith 5 minutes, Grant Williams 26 minutes. He started in the third at center position instead of Robert Williams. 6 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists. Romeo Langford 11 minutes, 6 points, 2 rebounds. Josh Richardson 11 points, 3 rebounds, 1 steal, and Freedom 3 minutes without success. For Utah, Donovan Mitchell 34 points, 1 rebound, 6 assists. Royce O'Neal 32 minutes, 12 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. Bojan Bogdanovic 16 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists. Rudy Gobert 18 points, 12 rebounds. Mike Conley 29 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists. Bench Rudy Gay 6 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. Joe English 9 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Jordan Clarkson 11 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Hassan Whiteside 2 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. And Forrest 2 rebounds. When you analyze the teams, statistical comparison, free throws, the Celtics +2. The Celtics made 22 of 22 free throws, 100%. Utah 20 of 23, which means the Celtics +2 from the free throw line. 2-point attempts, Utah 18 of 30, 60%. Celtics 33 of 52, 63%. The Celtics made 15 more 2-pointers or +30 from the 3-point line. But from the 2-point line, the Celtics had advantage of +30. From the 3-point line, Utah scored 27 threes of 51 3-pointers attempts or 52%. The Celtics scored 14 threes of 39% or 35% for threes. So from the 3-point line, the Utah Jazz scored 13 more threes, which is +39. So the Celtics had +30 from the 2-point line and +2 from the free throws, but Utah had +39, from the 3-pointers, and that's how they won the game. So +39 minus the Celtics 30 points advantage from the 2 points attempts, minus 2 points advantage that the Celtics had From the free throw line, you are getting +7 from Utah, mainly from the 3-point line. Now, baskets, field goals made. The Celtics made 2 more field goals, 41 of 91. That's 51%. The Utah Jazz made 45 of 81, or 55% field goal made. But the trick is Utah Jazz made more 3-point pointers. Rebounds 44-30 Utah. The offensive rebounds 9-5 Utah. But second chance points, Celtics 25-4. That's where we catch. That's how we caught Utah. Fast break points and second chance points. Now assists 26 and 23. Now we had like Utah had 19 lost balls, turnovers, and the Celtics 6 points of turnovers. The Celtics more because Utah had 19 turnovers. That's how we caught them. Steals Celtics 9, Utah 3, blocks 3-3, and so Utah was 39 minutes and 42 minutes leading. The Celtics only 5 minutes 56 leading. But biggest advantage of Utah 14, biggest advantage of the Celtics 4. That's how statistical analysis of the game. Now you mentioned Utah and their rebuilding process. I want to say a couple of words. First of all, I want to say that I'm a big fan of Quinn Snyder and his system. Andy, both defensive and offensive. First of all, on the offense, you will notice they attempted like 18 2 points attempts, but mainly under the basket or restricted area from the paint. They totally eliminated mid-range jumpers. They attempted 0 mid-range jumpers and 51 threes in their game. They are led by the advanced statistic that is telling you that if you are efficiently shooting for threes, you're going to win more games than when you're shooting. You're going to get more efficient offense than when you're shooting from the mid-range. So the teams are eliminating completely mid-range shoots, and Utah is one of them. So the offense is created to be 4-1 or a 5-man out offense. Only Rudy Gobert is not shooting the threes. Hassan Whiteside really not so much also, but they are playing 4-1 and they are creating their offense to be, they are having high pace and they are having incredible offensive flow. Which you could see in this game. They are looking for extra pass. They are moving off the ball well, unlike the Celtics players also. And again, I like Quinn Snyder. The defense is not, the defense is led by Rudy Gobert, who is leading in some categories like blocks per game and rebounds and defensive rating, one of the top 5 or top 10 players, and he was MVP candidate according to the statistical performance last year. You can like him or not. So the defense is led by Rudy Gobert, Mitchell, Conley. They are not the best defenders, but not worst also. So Royce O'Neal can jump, can defend from the help line. Bogdanovic is defensive liability in stretches, but they are covering him. So they are like I said, 6 defense overall. So they are small market team. They are forced to draft the players and to develop them. And they drafted Gobert and Mitchell, and they built the team around Gobert and Mitchell. And Rudy Gobert, Danny and Andy, he was labeled at the draft as the player that is having no motor at all. So the teams were hesitant to draft Rudy Gobert, and Utah drafted Gobert despite the labels that he's old-fashioned centers. He's not fitting well in the NBA, and he's not having motor at all. Those were bad labels about Gobert. So they took a risk and they gambled, and they won the gamble with Gobert, as we saw it. And also Donovan Mitchell, he was proven star at college pretty much, and they developed those guys and they build a team around them. But they are having organization that is investing in players, supporting the players and the team. They're having good coach, excellent coach, not top coach, but the coach that can put a system in the small market team as we saw it, and they are having the team that is on the paper the contender. Now, am I going to bet that Utah is going to the Western Conference Finals? No. I think that the best teams at the Western Conference, as it is obvious, are Golden State Warriors and Phoenix Suns for me. Of course, the surprises are possible, but we saw the 2 games of Phoenix Suns, Golden State Warriors, which are incredible, 1-1, by the way, in the last week. So I mean, Utah Jazz is there, so as Denver and a couple of other teams at the Western Conference. But again, Utah Jazz is example how you are building the contender if you're a small market team. In short notes, they brought in the good role players, Joe English from Europe, if I'm correct, Bogdanovic from Indiana, and couple of other players drafted, Royce O'Neal, Mike Conley Jr. from Memphis. They and those players are selected to fit perfectly into Quinn Snyder's system. Quinn Snyder didn't build a system around the players that he got, but he actually selected the players to fit his system, and he built a team around Mitchell and Gobert, and he succeeded thus far. That's in short notes about Utah. Danny, welcome to the show. And do you have something to add about Utah game, and or slowly to transfer to Portland game? By the way, you didn't speak. Danny, second question is, you didn't speak about Brown while you was absent. Andy and I were discussing about injury bug of the Celtics, because tonight Brown is out, if I'm correct. Langford questionable, and Horford out. Horford, understandable. He's old and he's playing too much. Like we said, Brown, I asked Andy, and I'm asking you, are you concerned about his injury? He had setback of his injury, and we had some funny articles about Jaylen Brown struggling. How can you say that Jaylen Brown is struggling because he's not healthy 100%? And another question that our friend, for example, Bobby Manning, asked on the press conference to Ime Udoka, the head coach of the Boston Celtics, does he think, Ime Udoka, that the Celtics rushed Jaylen Brown back into the Celtics starting lineup after the injury? Ime Udoka said no, but as we saw, after a couple of games played, and it was obvious that Jaylen Brown is struggling with his hamstring injury. He cannot move well. He's hesitant to do his usual moves. After playing a couple of bad games due to the injury problems, obviously, he's having right now kind of injury setback, despite Ime Udoka is denying that. It's obviously that he is getting extra rest. So my question to you, Daniel, are you starting to be worried about Jaylen Brown? Do you think that Jaylen Brown is heading into injury prone label, or maybe not? And what would you do if you're the Celtics? Are you going to play Jaylen Brown soon, or you're giving him free time until he's 100% healed?
Well, Hopefully my audio is working fine, as I know the internet here is a little bit fishy in this case. But I would actually be worried that he is going to get that injury-prone label, at least for the rest of this season, alongside Time Lord in this situation. And that's because look at who Jaylen Brown has to play and defend, ladies and gentlemen.
And Romeo Langford, he's injured again. Romeo Langford.
That's who in this case. But Romeo Langford, I don't think we really got to worry about him because Romeo Langford is not one of the critical pieces on this team. You know, he may be one of the guys that comes off the bench, but you know, Romeo Langford is one of those guys who can easily be replaced, as they say, in this situation. You know, because you got guys who are a lot like him. You know, like Neesmith can easily step in and play his role in this situation. You know, because let's think about it. What does Romeo Langford really give you in this situation when you think of his production on the court? You know, it's like you know what I'm trying to say here. You know, it's not like he gives you the production that you get out of Tatum or you get out of Brown or you get out of Al Horford or something like that. You know, Langford comes in and he may give you a decent 15 minutes a game in this situation, 20 minutes a game, and you know you gotta kind of thank your lucky stars if the brother gets you over 10 points a game in this situation. You know, so it's kind of like what Andy said earlier in this case. You know, you got 2 stars, and after that, you got to kind of wonder what the hell are you going to get out of everybody else the rest of the game. You know, that's really the question mark. You know, if the rest of the roster was a roster that you knew what you was going to have a guarantee every night, then maybe there'd be a little bit more confidence in this team. But you know, there isn't a roster built like that, and Langford is one of those guys alongside guys like Neesmith, Grant Williams. You know, the list goes on in this situation. So, you know, Langford is one of those guys that if he doesn't play, it's kind of like, whatever in this situation. That's not an important situation. Horford and Brown obviously is a different story. But when it comes to Brown, I would say, yeah, you did rush him in this case. And why is that? I would think it's better for him to skip games early in this season and make sure he's fully healthy to be ready for the end of the season and make sure you're playing the right way and you're in a groove at the end of the season than for you to basically try to force him to play in a game against Brooklyn. And I think that was the whole reason why they rushed him, was because they wanted to make sure the whole team was healthy for the game against Brooklyn and some of the games around that time. And obviously, what did it get us? You still lost against Brooklyn, despite that, in this situation, you know. And, of course, Brooklyn didn't have all their guys either. They were still missing Kyrie Irving, so we saw that the duo of Durant and Harden is still better than the duo of Tatum and Brown in that situation. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon, ladies and gentlemen, you know. So I would have rather lost that game to the Brooklyn Nets without Jaylen Brown, making sure that he was still getting healthy. Because at least then you could have said, well, yeah, we probably still would have lost anyways. But then again, we didn't have Jaylen Brown. So until we actually lose with him, you still don't know what these two teams will look like when they go head to head. But now, not only did you lose with him, ladies and gentlemen, so now you know Brooklyn is head and shoulders better than you at this point. But on top of it, you still have him injured. And then on top of it, he's still missing games afterwards. And so how long is it going to take for him to actually get 100% healthy? You know, obviously this is a road trip now where you really don't want him missing games because all these teams are going to be really difficult to beat. And so you're probably going to lose a majority of these games now without him because obviously Tatum can only do so much on his own. So you're really going to need some big-time performances from guys like Horford, Smart, Richardson, Schroeder, in this case, to actually make up for Brown's absence. So when you got Brown missing, it's one thing. But once you start adding guys like Horford and Smart and Richardson and Schroeder to the out list as well, it almost makes it impossible to win. So I highly doubt we're going to win tonight against Portland now that you know it's both Brown and Horford, which means you're missing 2 of your starting 5 in this case against a good Portland team that has, one of the best, point guards in the league in this situation, and Damian Lillard. Obviously, the Blazers have their own turmoil going on right now with the fact that they fired the general manager out there. And so everybody now is wondering what's going to be the next thing that happens in terms of the new GM. What does this mean for Damian Lillard and his future staying in Portland in this case? Could the new GM be thinking about moving him in this case? Yada yada yada. Or the interim general manager who's now basically there until the new GM comes in. What does he think about doing in this case? But I just literally feel that I would rather see maybe after this stretch, if he can't be 100% healthy after this Western Conference road trip, I would rather sit him for however long it takes for him to get back to normal, and then bring him back when he's 100% healthy. Same thing goes for Time Lord, because you will still have plenty of games left, ladies and gentlemen, to make up the ground on teams like Philly, New York, and all these other teams that you're right there with in the lower half of the playoff picture. In the end, I don't think you're going to be the number one seed if all of you are thinking that that's the goal. You're not going to be a number one seed, but you could be anywhere from second all the way down, to the last spot in the play-in picture in this situation. But if you don't have all your guys healthy, then it doesn't matter. Because in the end, you're just going to cost yourself too many games later on down the stretch when it really does matter, and you're playing all those teams, and the tiebreakers are going to be up for grabs and all of that, and it could very well end up costing us and make us lose our positioning in the playoffs because you were playing them without your best players because you made the games earlier in the season too important. A good example, you guys, I think, Andy kind of, mentioned it earlier, the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick would be willing to sacrifice games early in the season to make sure he's got his team playing well at the end of the season. And look at what the Patriots are doing right now. A lot of people counted them out earlier this season, and the Patriots right now have the second best record in the AFC and could very well be the number one seed going into the playoffs in the AFC. And that's because Belichick in this situation, we got a rookie quarterback, but he knows it's all about the end of the season, not the beginning in this situation. And that's something Ime Udoka's got to start realizing. If you got a valuable player, an asset like Jaylen Brown in this situation, heck, we've seen it with LeBron. LeBron, how many games does he skip just to rest his body and all of that? His team sacrifices games all season, even if it means that they may be the 6 or 7 seed, just to make sure he's 100% healthy and rested for the playoffs because they know they will still have a shot. We got to start thinking like that in this situation, that if our guys are not 100% healthy come playoff time, then it's not going to matter because we don't have a bench that's capable of giving you those big-time performances. If this was the Pierce, Garnett, Ray Allen type, Celtics, you guys, I would probably be a little bit different because that team had a veteran-type bench that knew what it took to win. So you lose one of those guys, you still had a decent bench that could actually, step up and get the victory without the star that was missing in this case. But the Celtics you got right now, you lose Brown or you lose Tatum, we might as well hand in the white flag, sign the paperwork that says we forfeit the season and give all the fans back their money for the tickets the rest of the season.
Interesting stuff. I'm searching for Portland and the Celtics comparison right now. Again, what I didn't say is Romeo Langford. I hope that he's okay. He's showing the potential, but again, there is something that is called players availability ranking or rating. So Robert Williams and Romeo Langford, this is not because I hate Robert Williams or Romeo Langford, so I'm putting this label on their name. No, but they're having just low availability rating. And Jaylen Brown, again, only
So-
played maybe like 8 or 10 healthy games in this season, fully healthy. When he played healthy, he played well. And like Danny said, if we have another guy from the core injured, Al Horford is out. I really hope this is just like uh, rest or some kind of you know load management or what.
Well, it's fine. Lillard's out as well because Lillard's out.
Oh.
Warren Powell was a game time decision. Anthony Simons is out. Nasir Little's out for the Blazers. Celtics going to be missing Brown, Horford, and Langford, possibly Langford, probably Langford.
That is good because it is increasing our chances to win without Lillard, right? I mean, I saw that Portland was +1 favorite, but that was assuming to that that was assumed that that was assumed that Lillard is going to play. I think that without Lillard, the Celtics would be maybe slight favorites. We will see to win the game. Anyway, Portland is 11-12, and the Celtics are 12-11. So the Celtics have higher winning percent than Portland. Portland also number 9 West Conference right now. This is the second of fifth road trip game. The Celtics lost to Utah, and later the Celtics will play Los Angeles teams, first Lakers, then Clippers, and close the trip to in Arizona. Phoenix. Portland's playing the third game of a 4-game stand. This is the first of 2 games between the 2 teams in the season. The second game will be played in Boston, January 21st. Celtics are sharing position number 8, currently number 9, with 12-11. They defeated Philadelphia and Jazz. Philadelphia and Toronto before losing to Jazz. The Celtics are 6-7 on the road and 6-4 in the last 10 games. The Celtics are 4-3 against the Western Conference opponents. The Trail Blazers are 9th in the Western Conference, 11-12, and they are coming off the loss in home, only their second home loss this season. The Blazers are 10-2 in Portland and 5-5 in the last 10 games. The Blazers are 5-3 against Eastern Conference opponents. These 2 teams split the series 1-1 last season. Every team won on the road. The Celtics defeated the Blazers in Portland, and Portland defeated the Celtics in Boston. The Celtics are playing on the second night back-to-back. The Celtics are 3-1 in the second night back-to-back this season. They're 2-0 when the back-to-back games are both on the road. The Trailblazers last played on Thursday. The Celtics had plenty connections to the Portland area because Ime Udoka played at Jefferson High School, Portland State, and with the Blazers in 2006-07. 2 assistants of the Celtics, Aaron Miles and Damon Stoudemire, they played in Portland pro basketball. And Peyton Pritchard also ties with this area because he played in West Linn High School in Oregon. Jaylen Brown and Andy said, Romeo Langford and Horford most likely will miss the game. Horford will be out because of lower back stiffness. This is not good, but he played a lot of minutes Friday, 34, and it's not a big surprise he's out. I'm guessing that Grant Williams will start in place of Horford and Robert also. Romeo alongside with so the starting lineup I'm guessing will be Marcus Smart, Dennis Schroeder, Jason Tatum, Grant Williams, Robert Williams. Romeo Langford left Friday night game against Utah after rolling his ankle. He's also questionable for this game, and both Romeo and Al will be game time decision. For the Trailblazers, like Andy said, the news is that um, Lillard will be out, and Anthony Simmons rolled his ankle Thursday night against the Spurs, and also they are without Lillard, who is out with abdominal injury, and Simmons was starting. At the point in his absence, Anthony Simmons is out. Dennis Smith Jr. likely to start at the point guard. Nasir Little is also out with ankle injury. Probable starters, I said for the Celtics and the Celtics reserves on this game: Bruno Fernando, Juancho Hernan Gomez, Yikes, Enes Freedom, Jabari Parker, Peto Pritchard, Josh Richardson, Aaron Naismith. Like I said, Jalen Brown, injury management out. Al Horford back out. Romeo Langford, ankle out. Two-way players, Sam Kusier and Brodick Thomas. Trailblazers likely to start. Uh, Okay, reserves. Dennis Smith Jr. To start, CJ McCollum, Norman Powell, power forward, Robert Covington, and Yusuf Nurkic. So again, Dennis Smith Jr., CJ McCollum, Norman Powell, Robert Covington, Yusuf Nurkic. Portland reserves, Greg Brown III, CJ Elebi, Ben McLemore, one of the most famous from the bench, Larry Nance Jr., one of our targets, Tony Snell. We played against him when he played with Milwaukee. Cody Zeller, also ex-Charlotte player, out. Anthony Simmons, ankle out. Damian Lillard, abdomen out. Nazir Little out. Two-way players, Belvins and Trendon Watford. Head coach Chauncey Billups. Billups was one of candidates for our head coach. Now, if you allow me, gentlemen, I will mention a couple of matchups and we will discuss about that. First of all, okay. What do you guys say? I will start with Andrew about the starting lineups. And to repeat, I am having the starters probable here: Marcus Smart, Dennis Schroeder, Jason Tatum, Grant Williams, Robert Williams III. And for the Portland again, Dennis Smith Jr., CJ McCollum, Robert Covington, Norman Powell from Toronto, and Yusuf Nurkic. How do you see the starting lineup, Sandy?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the Celtics starting lineup, that's probably the most likely they're going to run with. Obviously, losing Horford and Brown significantly depletes the team, especially on the offensive end. For the Trailblazers, I'm not sure Dennis Smith Jr. is going to play that many minutes. He hasn't really impressed that much this season with the Trailblazers. He's gotten some minutes. He's averaging, I think, like 13 minutes per game for the Blazers. But I don't. If I was Portland, knowing that Boston's likely to be going pretty small because Time Lord's undersized, he has a good vertical, but he's undersized. I would actually probably go bigger. I would have CJ at the point guard position, probably bump Norm Powell to shooting guard, Rocco to small forward, and play probably Nance at power forward, and then Nurkic in the middle. That would be my preferred lineup because I feel like that would attack Boston where they're weakest, which is in the paint. And anybody who's watched Celtics game tape knows that we have a bad tendency to collapse into the paint and leave shooters open. And Rocco, Powell, those guys are more than capable of knocking down those perimeter jumpers. And, I'm not counting on Larry Nance knocking down perimeters, but he can threaten the corner three every now and then. So I mean, like, I'll be interested to see what Portland does. But if it was me, I would probably run a bigger lineup as the Trailblazers to go against Boston, especially with Horford being out, Time Lord's Time Lord's good, but I also would feel confident that Nurkic can bully him in the paint because Time Lord, he's very athletic, but he's not a particularly strong or physical guy, and Nurkic is. And then I would take Larry Nance against Grant Williams just about any day of the week. And from there you have Rocco. I'm fine with Rocco on Tatum. Defensively, I think Rocco is a good matchup with Tatum. He's out there to defend more than shoot, but if you collapse the Celtics defense like it has a tendency to do, Rocco is a very good he's a good corner 3-point shooter. And then you also have Norm Powell, good scorer, and then you could have CJ run the offense. I mean, I think they'll throw Dennis Schroeder out. Oh, not Dennis Schroeder, Dennis Smith Jr. out there to start. But I think that unless Dennis Smith Jr. comes in there with a hot hand, I wouldn't be surprised if the Blazers opt to go big.
Okay.
The problem for Boston is if the Blazers go big, what are we going to do to counter that? I mean, Cantor I actually kind of like in this matchup because the Blazers are not a good defensive team. They're an offensive team. So, I mean, going for a full-on shootout with them is sort of an option, but Rocco matches up very well. I guess you could say Smart and Schroeder can defend McCollum. But, I mean, I feel like this is a matchup where you can play Cantor. I might actually go with more Enes Kanter, Enes Freedom, whatever his name is now. Enes Ochocinco. I don't know, but I would actually. This is a matchup where I might go with more of him and matching him with Nurkic. That I would go with Time Lord because I think that if the Blazers want to go big and play bully in the paint with Nurkic, I think Cantor's the only guy that we have who's really a viable option to body up and be physical in return. And Cantor's the type of guy who will carry an axe against Portland because Portland, remember, Cantor did very, very well with the Blazers last year in the starting role, and then the Blazers bumped him to the bench for Nurkic. And Cantor is the type of guy who will go out there and want to prove a point. So if I was Udoka, I would almost play. I would give that a shot and see how that works because, sometimes you got to play with the personality and the personal storylines. And with guys like, Cantor, I think we can all agree that that's the type of matchup where he's going to want to go out there and show Portland fans what a mistake they made by putting Nurkic over him. So that's my theory.
Okay, Daniel, let's see the matchups. Dennis Schroeder against CJ McCollum. With Lillard out, McCollum is the Blazers' first option. It will be important for the Celtics to slow McCollum down. McCollum is average 20.4 points per game, 4.4 rebounds per game, 4.5 assists per game. He is shooting 42.6% from the field and 39.6% for threes. 40% for threes. He's dangerous. Last season, in the two games, last season, in the two games with the Celtics, CJ scored average 24.5 points, 6 rebounds and 5 assists in game. He's inspired against the Celtics. He shooted 42% for threes. This may be Jaylen Brown against McCollum. In Brown played, but right now he will be guarded by Dennis Schroeder. What do you think about this, Daniel? Can Dennis Schroeder slow down CJ McCollum? Personally, I have absolutely no trust in Dennis as a defender, but maybe
Schroeder defended McCollum pretty well last year with the Lakers.
But maybe we can switch the other players. It's not necessarily knock in the woods that Dennis Schroeder must guard Dennis McCollum all the time, right, Daniel?
Well, that's the key in this situation for this game. That I feel we will probably see more Marcus Smart on McCollum in this game, in this situation, than we will see Dennis Schroeder, because Marcus Smart's always been kind of viewed as that main defensive-minded guy in this situation. Look, come on. We've seen Marcus Smart get put on LeBron James in instances when it comes to games over the years in this situation. When you would think about maybe someone like Tatum or Brown having to be the one to get put on him, and if not them, maybe one of the bigs, and instead they go to Marcus Smart. And that's because Marcus Smart is one of those guys who can annoy you in this situation with the way he likes to play. Marcus Smart is one that he'll go down and try to get the official to make the foul call against the team. And think about it, if Marcus Smart can get McCollum into, let's say, some foul trouble in this situation, then Portland is in trouble tonight. They're really going to need McCollum tonight now that we know Damian Lillard is not going to be able to play tonight in this game. And this is another thing where I can say what I said earlier about Tatum, using that body and going on the attack. You don't think it'd be a little bit more smart to go the route of attacking, especially if you can basically use the pick and roll and try to get Tatum maybe to have to get guarded by McCollum tonight a few times? Do something to get McCollum on Tatum and let Tatum go and attack him, and make it where you're going to have to put pressure on the refs to either make the foul call in Tatum's favor, or McCollum's going to have to lay off and let Tatum go right by him. How many times have we seen that from the star players in this league? They try to pick the matchup they want to try and force the foul calls to be made against other players from the other team, so that those players are forced to have to leave the game in this situation, and their team can gain the advantage with that player having to sit because they're in foul trouble. You do that to McCollum tonight, and the Celtics would have there's no excuse for losing this game if that ends up being the case. But I agree with Andy. Schroeder did prove himself last year, Igor, when it came to being able to stop McCollum, not completely hold him down like we saw the Celtics do to Embiid the other night, but he did prove himself to give McCollum trouble from time to time in this situation. So I think the combination of Smart and Schroeder tonight will be enough to give McCollum some trouble, especially since there's no Damian Lillard. And I wouldn't be surprised if from time to time we even see Tatum take a shot of guarding McCollum, knowing that he's a bigger body, and maybe in just those critical moments, where, let's say, the game is on the line. That's kind of like what we saw out of Paul Pierce when Pierce was the top player on this team. He would go and guard the best player in those critical moments with the game on the line. Maybe we see that from Tatum tonight in this situation. Put the bigger body on McCollum and let Marcus Smart maybe take the next best guy when it comes to being the one who will try to take the game-winning shot, and then Schroeder takes the third best guy in this case. So I think with the fact that Lillard is out, this is a game that you should be winning. There is no excuse to lose this game tonight, knowing that now, you've got the best player in this game. No disrespect to McCollum. McCollum's a really great NBA player, my opinion, an all-star, in this case. But Tatum is now the best player in this game tonight, in this situation. In a way, many people would say it's a toss-up between him and Lillard as to who is the best player coming into the game tonight on that court. So now that Lillard is out, it's obvious who's numero uno on that court tonight, you guys. So if Tatum can't outplay McCollum and get the Celtics a win tonight, that is that's going to be a really bad mark on that boy's resume.
Okay, we are going to speed up. Another duel that we are having advantage, in my opinion, Jason Tatum against Norman Powell. I'm expecting Powell on Tatum as a start. Powell returned to the starting lineup on Thursday night from the quad injury in loss against Spurs, and is expected to start once again in this game. Powell is averaging 16.8 points per game, 2.5 rebounds per game, 1.5 assists per game. Powell shooting 48.9% from the field, or 49% from the field, and 44% beyond the arc. Jason Tatum still struggled from the three on Friday night, but he has found other way to score, including 11 points from the line, which is great, and finishing with 37 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. However, he will find his stroke again. Hopefully, he will find his stroke again because the Celtics will need him in order to win this tough trip. I have one more question for Andy or Duel because honorable mention Robert Williams III against Yusuf Nurkic will be fun matchup. If Robert Williams is going to play a lot of minutes because he played only 16 the other night. Nurkic is average 12.4 points and 10.6 rebounds, 2.3 assists, shooting 58% from the field and 23.5% for threes. Last season in 2 games against the Celtics, Nurkic averaged 11 points, 10 rebounds, double-double, 5.5 assists, 2.5 steals. He was shooting 62% from the field and 50% for threes against the Celtics. Again, Andy, they having a tough center for the Celtics. The center that I know from Adriatic Basketball League, really strong guy, Yusuf Nurkic, who can play good in the pick and roll sets. He doesn't have Lillard to play pick and roll, but he can play pick and roll with McCollum and Dennis Smith Jr. and the other guards of from Portland, and he can be really tough if Portland is basing their game, their offense on Yusuf Nurkic and CJ McCollum 2-2 game. It can be really dangerous for the Celtics, right, Andy?
Yeah, although I think the biggest concern, I'm not concerned about any one player on the Trailblazers, really. They don't really have. CJ's a good player. He's not really, I mean, we all talk about how Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum aren't really superstars. Celtics fans like to say CJ McCollum is not really a superstar. I mean, I would say he's not close to, he's not a bad player, don't get me wrong. CJ McCollum's a good player, but he's not on the same level as Tatum and Brown. I'll tell you that. I think that my biggest concern with Boston is team. There are 2 things that concern me. The first is that with Lillard out, we decide that we're going to take this matchup for granted. And we come out and play half-ass basketball like we've seen this team do when they take matchups for granted. And we end up getting smashed by a depleted Trailblazers team because we don't realize we're actually playing an NBA game until somewhere in the 3rd quarter. We've seen that happen several times this season, and that's my first concern because it happens a lot when we face easy matchups. And, if we want to have a better season than we started out with, we need to start taking these matchups seriously. I mean, literally being out is like a windfall for us. It gives us what should be an easy win game on the road, on an otherwise difficult road trip. If you want to be a contending team, you have to capitalize on those situations and get those extra wins that you didn't count on earlier in the season, which means that you can't take the matchup for granted. The other thing that concerns me, it's sort of related, is like we discussed throughout the show, the Celtics have a tendency to collapse into the paint where we have, anywhere from 3 to 4 Celtics defending one guy. Why? No idea. Maybe they all got the COVID vaccine. They're all magnetic and they're all attracted to each other and held together by the magnets.
And Andy, and one more thing: the Celtics have tendency to collapse in the 4th period because when you have the statistics from the 4th quarter, the Celtics are the worst 4th quarter team in the NBA.
Yeah, well, and so the thing is, I think that goes back to what we've talked about with bad roster construction. You can't expect guys to play 110% on both ends of the court for the entire game, night after night after night. And that's basically what we're doing right now. I think the concern for me is that we start collapsing in. And, I've said this throughout the season. I think I said it last season. It feels like every single night, some random guy has a killer night from beyond the arc against Boston. That's not luck. That's not the other team getting lucky. That's because our defense likes to collapse in and leave somebody wide open. And if we do that, somebody on that Trailblazers team is going to burn us. I would say probably somebody like Rocco, who's not a great 3-point shooter, but if we consistently leave him standing wide open in the corner because Grant Williams decides that he wants to go and hold hands with Time Lord and Jason Tatum in the paint, well, Rocco is going to roast us from beyond the arc because he is perfectly capable of knocking down catch and shoot open threes. I would say pretty much anybody who's made it to the NBA level, if you let them catch, set, and shoot a wide open 3-pointer from the corner, they're probably going to make quite a few of those. That's, I think as fans, we sometimes say, oh, this guy is trash, that guy is trash. These guys are all you don't get to the NBA by being a bad basketball player. Everybody in the NBA is a good basketball player, and a good basketball player will make that wide open catch, set, and shoot three. And that's my biggest concern, honestly, in the game, is that we're going to collapse because I think Nurkic, if he's smart, is going to try to bully Time Lord down low. And as soon as he gets a couple easy baskets, as soon as that matchup happens in the paint, you're going to see our corner defenders come running in to double team Nurkic. And, they might miss it the first few times. And then the coach is going to pull, the coach is going to call a timeout. He's going to pull the players aside and say, hey, they're all coming into the paint. Pass the ball to the corner. Doesn't matter who's there. Just throw the ball to the guy in the corner. And we see that happen. If you watch a lot of Celtics games and you watch that one guy who gets hot, that's what happens a lot. And if we do that, we will, if we do that against this team, we will lose the game. If you do that and you leave wide open shooters in the corners, you're going to lose a lot of games in the NBA because, like I said, by the time you make it to the NBA, whether you're a bench player, a starter, or anything else, most of those guys can hit a wide open catch and shoot three from the corner. And that's what concerns me the most about this game. If we come in and we're focused and we play good basketball, we play tough and play like we actually, are in an NBA game, we should win this game no problem. But I guess my concern is that we lack focus and we allow ourselves to collapse too much.
Absolutely agree, Andy, and it is making me, laughing when I see every time when we got killed because of our 3-point line defense that you mentioned and pick and roll set defense. Because we are allowing too many open threes, especially from the corner, like you mentioned, and some random guy killed us from beyond the arc that the Celtics fans didn't even heard. They didn't even hear about before the Celtics games. They're saying like, oh, this is like just the beginner's luck, just like when some beginner is starting to gamble, and this is like the first lucky hand, the other time it will be more luck for us, and the other time some other random guy kills some other random guy kills us beyond the arc because of the same things, and we are here saying the same thing over and over again. We will see. Keys to the game: defense, defense, defense. What Andy and I were saying, I know I say it every game, but defense is the key to winning this game. The Blazers average 1.9.2 points per game with Lillard, and the Celtics average 106.3 points per game. The Celtics are fifth in the league in defensive rating of 104.5. The Blazers are 28 with defensive rating 111.8. I think that it is actually 106.5. Pardon me. The Celtics need to continue to make tough defense priority and identity. Rebounding. The Celtics must make extra effort to grab rebounds in order to give themselves extra possessions as well to keep the Blazers from cashing in the second chance points. Last time the two teams when two teams played, NS Freedom was on the Blazers, and NS Freedom put 30 rebounds in the game. Before that, the Celtics need to be the team that works harder to win the rebounding battle. moving the ball carefully. One of the keys winning the Celtics game to move the ball and find the open man. When we play hero ball, usually we lose. The tendencies to move the ball, they also must be careful with the passes. The Celtics have tendencies to get careless and turn the ball over in the passes. Be aggressive. The Celtics need to be working hard and wants to win the game more. Also, X factors. Back to back on the road. The Celtics are back to back on the road, travel, a hostile crowd, familiar court, and that kind of stuff. Trailblazers tough at home, 10-2 in Moda Center. The Celtics will need to work harder to beat them. And the Celtics also playing the second game and many nights after tough loss Friday, and fatigue may come into factor. And finally, officiating. I know, but officiating is X factor. Every crew calls the game differently, whether they are calling every tic-tac foul or every contact. Some ref favors home team, and the Celtics have got to adjust the way the game is being called and not let themselves get frustrated by officiating, especially Tatum. Danny, some comments and your keys of the game?
Well, I would say in this situation that what Andy just said about the fear of the team taking the game not taking the game seriously is definitely true. And whether it's that they don't take it take it enough seriously enough at the very get go, or they do the other thing we've been seeing, which is we get the lead early and then they take their foot off the gas pedal in this situation and blow the lead that we might have in the second half in this case, or in the second quarter, whatever it might be, and we end up losing because of it. This team tonight, this is a game, like I said, that you should be winning. There's no excuse for losing it now that the all-star, the only, should I say the superstar of that team? I shouldn't say all-star because, as I said earlier, that want to make sure I say it correctly, that all-star, both McCollum and Lillard are all-stars on that team, but there's only one actual superstar on that team in this case, in many people's view, and that's Damian Lillard, which is why many people basically, if Lillard was to say, I'm out, I'm done, I want to go somewhere else, you'll have every team in the league pretty much wanting to go after him in this case, trying to say, I'm willing to offer something else because Lillard is that damn good in this situation. If McCollum was to say that, it definitely wouldn't be the same thing, So literally, there's no excuse in this situation to lose tonight. So if the Celtics, come out playing with their A game at the start of this game, there should be no issues in basically taking over. Because Tatum is capable of matching McCollum or even outscoring him in this case. I understand, what you were saying about, I believe, what you were saying about, their bigs and all of that. But easily I feel that with Time Lord, Grant Williams, and, Cantor Freedom, in this case, we should be able to match those guys because easily in this case, we can, as Andy said, this team doesn't like to play defense. So as long as we're moving the ball and making it a fast-paced game, our bigs will be able to get some easy baskets in this case because this team doesn't want to play any defense. The Portland Trailblazers just want to keep the offense going in this case, So I guess I would say Robert Williams is the best defensive-minded player right now in terms of bigs from either team going into this game tonight. That's literally because of how little defense the Portland Trailblazers play. But come the second half, if the Celtics have a big lead, let's say double digits, 15 points, 18 points, something like that, I am hoping that we see Igor Udoka literally tell them, keep your foot on the gas pedal. I do not want to see no walking the ball up the court and trying to play the clock like we've seen in some of these other games where we've had these big leads, and all of a sudden the offense starts getting out of whack, and the other team manages to make a comeback because we've been there, done that, and it's cost us each and every time this season. And as much as we can say, yeah, this team, the Portland Trailblazers tonight, they ain't as good as they could be without Damian Lillard. They are still good enough where if you take them too lightly, they can come back and it can bite you in the ass in this situation, and it can end up causing you this loss. And you already lost last night in Utah in a game that I feel you should have won, in my opinion. You do not need to go losing this game tonight because, in my opinion, you're probably going to lose the game to the Lakers. You're probably going to lose the game to the Clippers as well, knowing that you got to play the very next night in this case, even though obviously you're playing in the same city, but you're probably going to lose the very next night in this situation, and you're probably going to lose to Phoenix. So if you don't win tonight, you're probably going back home to Boston with a complete winless road trip. So, in my opinion, this is a must-win tonight in this situation for the Boston Celtics if they want to at least get one win and basically make sure you're going home with at least one out of five on this road trip and make sure it's not a complete failure in this case. But if the Celtics, like Andy said, don't take them seriously, the Celtics could very well end up going home or could be looking at an 0-5 road trip at this point.
I totally agree with you, Danny. But can you hear me, by the way? Because I don't have the signal. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great, thank you. I mean, you're totally right. I said prior to Philadelphia game, this is must-win game for us by all costs because we want to enter the road trip with the self-confidence and the win. And absolutely, we are chasing position number 8 and 7 for the playoffs, and this is the win game for the Celtics. Also, this is the win game tonight because A, we lost tough game in Utah that we should have won, and B, we are still number 9. And like you said, C, we could be facing going 0-5 home. In that case, it will be really difficult to catch a break and to catch a good rhythm. When we return home, and the other candidates for position number 8 and 7 will be ahead of us. We must not allow that. We must win 1 or 2 games at this road trip if we want to continue to be contenders for the playoff spot at the Eastern Conference. About the Celtics fans and the nation, Andy and I were talking about the 3-point defense and the defense. Again, I don't want to hear any excuses. If we lose this game is winnable game. This is the game in which we are the favorites without Damian Lillard because we have deeper team and we have the best player on the court, which is Jason Tatum. So, despite Portland is 10-2 at home, despite their tough team at home, we are, in the good position to win this game without Damian Lillard. And if we are smart, if we play, like basketball team, like Andy said, we should win this game. I don't want to hear the excuses like we heard in Utah, like Utah just had a luck, hitting threes and that kind of crap. And also, I don't want to hear injuries. I don't want to hear excuses like officiating and that kind of crap. We should win this game tonight because we are slight favorites, I think, without Damian Lillard. And that's it from me. Danny, if you have something to add, it's up to you. We are going to have show the next week, if I'm correct. and hopefully the Celtics will win this game and hopefully win another one against the Lakers. So we should be talking about 2 wins, hopefully, the next show. That's it from us. Thanks, Danny. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, everyone, for watching us and listening us. And that's it. Daniel?
Yeah, so again, ladies and gentlemen, 10 p.m. Eastern Time tonight, Celtics and Trailblazers. Again, we will have the coverage inside the Weebly Green Celtics Fan Forum group. And for any of you looking for the information in regards to our future schedule, which I will give that to you also right now, Igor, in this case. Again, next Saturday, 12/11, radio show at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And then obviously we will meet you all the 18th Saturday back here on StreamYard for a video chat in this case. And then obviously the weekend of Christmas, we will not meet with you guys as everybody will be on their holiday, being with their families. So then after that, the next time we will meet you all will be Saturday, the 1st of January in this situation, as we will end up doing a radio show or video chat, depending on what the guys would prefer in this case. If it's a radio show, then we'll probably start at 5 p.m. So we will all let you know as we get closer to that date, obviously, as again, everybody will be probably celebrating the New Year's with their family in this case, but we will see. But again, next Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Block Talk Radio for radio show, and then Saturday, 12/18, video chat. So we will see you all then. And again, 10 p.m. Eastern Time tonight, Weebly Green Celtics Fan Forum for coverage of the Celtics and Portland Trail Blazers. So let's go Celtics, and we'll talk to you all again next Saturday.